right. So what if the Irish had won the war against Al Capone? What would have changed? And there's all kinds of different variables. And that's what we're going to discuss, and then we'll open it up to everybody else in the panel, because your opinion or your thoughts on this matter is what I'm looking for. Because there's, like I said, there's a million different variables. This can go one of several different ways. So it's a relative question, and oftentimes when we're discussing organized crime, we like to play with different variables, right? Al Capone, who had a relatively short but powerful run, pretty much would bury himself in quick order February 14th of 1929, when he systematically whacked 7 guys, 5 of those being members of the North Side Gang in a warehouse. It forever changed the landscape of Chicago and the Mafia in general. So in order to address that properly, we have to sort of give some background. And the reason for the beef was Prohibition and the control of illegal booze in Chicago. Al Capone is not often mentioned, but he was a Brooklyn guy. He got his start with the Bowery Boys and the Junior 40 Thieves, and he makes his way into the Brooklyn Rippers and then the infamous 5 Points Gang. And he really begins his tutelage into organized crime with Frankie Yale. Yale's mentor, obviously, as we know, is Johnny Torrio. Yale's crew is really the first Italian crew in New York City, which didn't blur the lines between Sicilians and other Italians, say from northern Italy and etc. And they didn't care as long as you were Italian, which was very much sort of a Lucky Luciano sort of thought process as well. So eventually, at the request of Big Jim Colosimo, as Colosimo was back in Chicago having problems with the Black Hand, and more or less he was being shaken down, Torrio heads to the Midwest and immediately kills the members of the Black Hand who were shaking Colosimo down. The hit itself is really old school. Torrio grabbed a covered horse-drawn carriage and put 2 Colosimo hitmen in the back with sawed-off shotguns. Colosimo sent word that he would pay the $50,000 to the Black Hand members, and he gives them an address. Torrio sat in wait, and the 3 men arrived coming from the back, which was a huge mistake. 2 men in the back opened up fire, killing all 3 instantly. In return for his skills, Colosimo essentially puts Torrio in charge of the day-to-day operations of what we know today as the Chicago Mob. Frankie Yale would send Torrio a letter a few months later asking for a favor, as Al Capone had been cut up really bad in Brooklyn in Coney Island as a result of insulting a woman. He would use Al in Chicago as Capone was in danger there. So in other words, Capone had to leave New York. There's just too many problems. And so the favor is, could, he use Al in Chicago? And Torrio basically makes a call, and Capone makes his way out to the Midwest. And it wasn't a bad move for Capone at all, because Yale had a lot of issues, especially on the Brooklyn waterfront. And Al had his own share of issues with other crime families in New York City. So the move wasn't a bad one. I think for Capone, and this is just me guessing here, but I think the mentality was, why be a small fish in a big pond when you can be a big fish in a bigger pond? After Capone moves to Chicago, he begins running the front door of Torrio's headquarters, and then after seeing Capone's abilities to be violent, placed him as a bodyguard and slowly began showing him the rackets. Prohibition, as we know, would begin in 1920, and it was all systems go. There would be jockeying for position in Chicago, especially with bootlegging, and that's when some problems sort of begin. And let's put it this way. Here's some facts. Between 1919 and 1933, there would be 729 gangland murders. That's a lot of murders. An awful lot of murders. And a large part of the issue was that Big Jim Colosimo didn't want anything to really do with bootlegging, at least on a big scale. And Torrio knew that they were going to lose out on millions and millions and millions of dollars. Torrio was irate, and he makes a call back to Frankie Yale back in New York. And he had a job for him to do. May 11th, 1920, after coming home from an elopement in Indiana, Torrio calls Colosimo and tells him to expect a shipment at his restaurant. Colosimo heads to his restaurant, and as he gets out, he heads inside and he asks his porter, Joe Gabrella, if anybody had been around looking for him. He was told no, so Jim enters the foyer and was looking out the window. Seconds later, 2 shots get put in the back of his skull at point-blank range. Who did it? Likely Frankie Yale, as Gabrella actually ended up picking Yale out of a photo lineup. Yale would be arrested, and during the live lineup, Gabriella suddenly went blind, deaf, and dumb. So Yale walks from that murder. So with Torrio taking over, he basically had the biggest crime gang in Chicago, and he would eventually put Capone, his second in command. With splinter groups and rivals, Torrio tried and had a lot of success at sit-downs and disputes. He didn't want his operations to be interrupted whatsoever. In 1920, Torrio calls a meeting in the city and basically organizes turf for all of the criminal gangs in Chicago. The north side would be controlled by Dean O'Banion, and he would control the 42nd and 43rd wards and mainly the north end of Chicago. The Jenna crime family would control Little Italy, which was west of the Chicago Loop. And the problem was that the Jennas, who were aligned with Torrio, began to encroach into the north side, despite any agreements that Torrio had made with O'Banion. While Torrio had made inroads into settling territories, settling beefs, the south side was making all of the money. So in other words, they allowed the north side to do their thing, but they were sort of handicapped to an extent on how far they could go. And now you got the Jenna brothers who are starting to encroach into O'Banion turf. And so Torrio more or less would play O'Banion and give him a cut of Cicero's beer rights, and he handed over 25% interest in the Ship, which was a casino. O'Banion, who knew he was being played, basically went around and talked speakeasies into moving out of their districts and into his districts, hence handicapping some of Torrio's turf. Torrio tried to avert a war by offering O'Banion a cut of the whorehouse racket, but O'Banion was utterly against prostitution. Staunch Catholic. So, as a result of Torrio refusing to rebuff the Jenna brothers and tell them to stop encroaching, O'Banion takes matters into his own hands and begins to hijack shipments of liquor that belonged to the Jennas. The Jennas, in turn, wanted to kill O'Banion, but because the mob was organized by the Union Siciliana, which was basically a mere front for the mafia, the hit was taken to Mike Merlo, who was the local president of the group, and he refused to sanction the murder. Not that he had power over Torrio, but it was sort of a middleman arrangement, okay? Merlo was really powerful because he controlled local politics for the mob, and he was really the mob's fixer in the city. And he more or less, like I said, was the middleman between the mob and other criminal groups in Chicago. He was the third party that was always called in to mitigate things. So O'Banion wasn't going to take shit from anybody, so he decides to move on Torrio by trying to frame Capone and Torrio for the murder of Northside associate John Duffy. Duffy had gotten himself in a jam, killed his wife in a fit of rage, and then he falls asleep. The next day, he calls some friends about that issue. By the way, killed my wife last night, need a little help. And he ends up getting contacted by O'Banion, offering to meet him at a club called the Four Deuces, which was a club that was owned by Torrio and Capone. Duffy would actually disappear that day, and his body would be found on a snowbank outside of Chicago. He had been hit 3 times in the head with a .38. Now, because he was last seen meeting at a Capone-Torrio-owned establishment, law enforcement and authorities believed that the murder was actually committed by Johnny Torrio or Al Capone or somebody from that faction. And Torrio knew what was going on. He saw through O'Banion's plot. And Torrio basically has enough, but he knew that at the end of the day, he couldn't get fingered for a crime he didn't do. And he catches wind that the cops are no longer buying the narrative on the streets that Torrio had something to do with it. And the cops actually began to believe that O'Banion is the one who actually ordered it, but they couldn't get enough evidence either way to logically prove it. If Torrio had enough, if he had enough of the bullshit, the next event would set off a full-scale war. Torrio and O'Banion had business together in the Sebin Brewery. O'Banion would find out through sources that cops are going to raid the place, and he meets with Torrio and he tells him, look, I just want to cash out, full well knowing the place is going to get raided. He explains that the Jennas were getting to him and he just wanted to cash out while he still had time. Torrio, thinking that O'Banion was being actually transparent with him, handed over $500,000. As O'Banion went to the brewery on the night in question to pick up his last shipment, what happens? The cops raid the warehouse. Everybody gets pinched, but the charges would be much less against O'Banion because he had no prior arrests during Prohibition. Torrio and company would bail themselves out, and he demanded his money back from O'Banion. Now, I don't understand from this perspective who Torrio thought he was at that point to get his money back. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. So that being said, basically, O'Banion tells him to go fuck himself. I'm not giving you a dime. And then that's when Torrio starts to kind of figure out that he was set up. He not only loses the brewery, but he loses $500,000 on top of it. Torrio wanted to make a move, but he couldn't because there was too much at stake for his operations, and it was better to be peaceful than to start a full-scale war. O'Banion, in the summer of 1924, while on vacation, ends up purchasing a cache of weapons in Denver. Specifically, he bought a handful of Tommy guns. How Torrio found out about that, I don't know. But I largely assume that somebody tipped off Torrio that he was stockpiling weapons. And at that point, Torrio wasn't going to hesitate another fucking second. November 3rd of 1924, O'Banion called Angelo Genna over a huge debt owed. O'Banion, who had interest in the ship, as we said earlier, that casino, they went over the skim for the week and what the profits were. The Gennas owed a ton of money. O'Banion was pissed, and he had every reason to be so. Al Capone, who was at this meeting, suggested that O'Banion let it go, wash it, forget about it, meaning forgive the debt. That's what guys do for other guys. Just forgive the debt. It's not a big deal. O'Banion would refuse, and then he called Angelo Genna on the phone, and he gave him 1 week to pay up or he was going to kill him. Genna then obviously knowing his life has just been threatened, now wants to kill O'Banion. And because Mike Merlo had refused to sanction the murder originally, Genna had no choice but to sit back and just wait. Merlo would end up actually dying of cancer November 8th, and with Merlo dead, all bets would be off. Frankie Yale, acting on the auspice of Merlo's funeral, would actually visit O'Banion's flower shop, but he wasn't really there to get flowers. He was there to get the layout. November 10th of 1924, while O'Banion was trimming flowers in the back of his shop, Frankie Yale enters the back with Albert Anselmi and John Scalish. Yale would shake O'Banion's hand. Yale would swing to his side, and Anselmi and Scalish would open up on O'Banion. He would be hit twice in the chest, twice in the throat, and then Yale would put the finishing touches, one behind the head after O'Banion fell to the ground. And that would set off a war for the next 7 years. And as we know, Jaime Weiss and Bugs Moran would take over whatever was left of O'Banion's rackets. And the first order of business was to whack Johnny Torrio and Al Capone. The first attempt came on Al Capone in January of 1925, who was ambushed leaving a club. He survived, but 12 days later, Torrio and his wife were ambushed outside of their home by Jaime Weiss, Drucci, and Bugs Moran. Torrio was shot several times, but he ended up surviving. After that, he basically handed the reins over to Al Capone and fled back to New York. A year after that, he would go back to Italy, leaving behind a $1 billion a year business to Al Capone. Now, in retaliation for the shooting of Torrio, Capone ordered the death of Jaime Weiss. On October 11th of 1926, Weiss and his men left court heading back towards their State Street headquarters. They walked towards their cars, and suddenly machine gun fire erupted from a nearby rooming house window. Weiss, Patty Murray were dead instantly. William O'Brien got hit 4 times and stumbled down a stairwell. Sam Peller and Benjamin Jacobs both were shot, but they ended up running back in the same direction towards the court, and gunfire would erupt again. Jack McGurn, the Chicago hitman, was behind that hit. Moran, enraged, went to get the Irish Mafia involved. He ends up going to see Danny Hogan, who was the Irish mob boss of St. Paul, Minnesota. Whatever was discussed wouldn't last because Hogan would die on December 4th of 28 as a result of a car bomb. Moran would try to strike Capone members but would fail. Capone wanted Moran dead. What would happen is the death warrant for Moran and his group would sort of be sealed in what we know as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The hit was meant for Moran and all of his men, but being the ever diligent guy that he was, he intentionally showed up late. Over the years, people have incorrectly claimed that Bugsy Moran was just running late in a fate that likely saved his life. But in reality, it's my belief based on paperwork that I have. In fact, a bad cop had tipped off Moran that something was sort of a plot was afoot. And it was too late for him to warn anybody at that point. After the massacre, Moran and his group never really recovered. He eventually would leave the mob life, but not the criminal life. He saw the writing on the wall. Eventually, he would turn into a fraud guy and a bank robber. And he would eventually go back to prison, would die in Leavenworth at age 63 of lung cancer. So the question is, What if Moran or Jaime Weiss or O'Banion were able to pull in Hogan from the Irish? What would have changed? What trajectory would it leave Chicago in? Does the mafia survive if Torrio and Capone are killed? And what does the lay of the land look like if that happens? And there's so many variables, and that's what I want to talk about. What would have happened if Torrio and Capone get clipped? Because you have to remember, the one thing about the Chicago mob is that during Capone and Torrio, there was a lot less emphasis on the tradition as we know it. And it's not going to be until Frank Nitti and other guys step up that they really begin to form into something that looks more like what we know as a New York mob family. Chicago was always different. The focus was not on making ceremonies and anything like that. That's why they were different than New York mob families. So there's some differences. And like I said, that really didn't start to come into play till Frank Nitti took over. But that massacre is a huge event. It's not just a huge event because Al Capone kills and destroys all of his competitors and his enemies, because that's essentially what that does. But he also puts the noose around his own neck by doing that. Because not only is the New York Mafia infuriated with what he did, it's also going to really be the end of his reign as a boss of Chicago. And so if we step back in history just a little bit and we say, okay, let's pretend Bugs Moran and they all join up together against Capone. Does he even have a chance? Does he even have a chance? So we're going to bring it into the chat. Let's have the discussion. All right. So there you go. That's sort of the historical background for it. And for those that do know, and those that don't know, there was a meeting in Atlantic City. And after that meeting, Luciano demanded that Al Capone get arrested because the heat was coming down from the feds. So they told him, you're going to put a gun in your pocket. You know the cops are going to come check you as soon as you get off the train. And the rest is going to be history. And that's exactly what happens. And what ends up happening is Capone gets arrested, takes a gun charge, and does about 8 months of a year sentence. And that pretty much gives the government, Dewey, all the time in the world and all these pricks, time to investigate him and get him on the tax beef, which ultimately leads to him going to prison. And then the syphilis takes over. And that's pretty much the end of Al Capone. So my question to all of you in the chat is, if Bugs Moran, Jaime Weiss, let's say they all align with Hogan out of St. Paul, does the Italian mafia stand a chance against the Irish in Chicago? You know, that's the question. And I don't know realistically if I can even answer that, because I think there's too many variables at play. And I think what it's going to come down to is who's the most determined, who's the sneakiest. I mean, on one side, you got Al Capone, who controls a lot of cops, controls a lot of politicians, but the Irish control a lot of that too. And so I think it's an interesting sort of juxtaposition historically. I honestly don't think that the Irish could have taken out the Italians. I think it would have been a little differently here in New York, but I don't know. Question is, how much would the Irish winning in Chicago affect New York City and Lucky at all? Well, see, once again, when you ask something like that, there's just so many variables. So like because really when you get down to to dummy down the question, it becomes, how much did New York rely on Chicago? That's really the bigger question. And I don't think they relied on them for much, at least not in the time period we're talking about. Come the 60s, that's a totally different story. Come the 70s, that's a totally different story. But I don't think that for the life of me, I don't think the Irish could have beat the Italians. I think there were just too many people. You know, I mean, 729 gang murders in some, like, what, fucking 6 years? I mean, just, that's insane. It's just insane. Oh, I think Jimmy the Gent's going to tell you the Tommy Patera joke that he sent me in an email. So I'm curious as to what you guys think. I'm curious for other opinions. If you're not down with that opinion or that sort of thing, then I can definitely move on to my next topic, which is, well, it's going to be what it's going to be. So I guess I'll jump into that really quick. And then if anybody wants to come on, I'll drop the link here. And there is the link. We can talk about anything you guys want to talk about, organized crime related, but I'm going to get to this next part. For those that know, and for those that don't, Scott Bernstein, for whatever reason, he's written a couple of books. He wrote the book on Philly and Eddie. He has covered organized crime for a number of years. I know that he covers a lot of African-American crime and stuff like that as well. And I kind of have some issues with some of the stuff that he does. Easy Champion. I was just watching this the other night. All right, I'll get to that. Remind me of that. Sort of the thing is like this. When you're covering mob content, okay, there's always a difference between doing research and looking through case files and using the Freedom of Information Act to your availability, and it's expensive, and I don't expect everybody to do that. And then there are people who just regurgitate Wikipedia and who regurgitate what they read in books, and that's fine and dandy. But then there are people who don't have contacts and they invent things that just are not accurate. I have always been a stickler for stickler, not a stickler. I've always been a stickler for history. And the one thing that you cannot do is change mob history. You can't take a guy like Vinny the Chin and turn him into being something that he really wasn't. Now, did I know him personally? Of course not. Does anybody else? Not really. All right. But when you take sort of a situation like Sammy Gravano and you try to input Vinny the Chin and all of that nonsense, when historically it's been proven that he had nothing to do with a lot of the stuff that was going on, you sort of make an ass out of yourself, and it makes you somebody who has no integrity because you don't do any research. But that's not specifically what I'm going to talk about. If any of you have any of you ever heard of Gunnar Lindblom? Press number 1. Gunnar Lindblom, just so I know that you guys can hear me and you're following along, because this is going to be important. If you've ever heard the name Gunnar Lindblom, press number 1. I guess nobody has. That's okay. All right, I'm seeing someone. So Gunnar Lindblom is the biggest fraud that ever walked the face of the planet. Okay? He was never a gangster. He was a crankhead, a bank robber, nothing more, nothing less. For 5 years, he came onto YouTube claiming he was related to the Tocos, and he's not. He has invented storyline after storyline, narrative after narrative. And for some reason, Scott Bernstein backed this bullshit up for 5 years. Now, here's my thing. There's another guy, Anthony Raymundi. Total clown, total fucking joke, total fraud. But yet mob content creator after mob content creator has put this jerk off on and given him a platform without doing any research about who they're talking to. And that's sort of my point. Now, guys in Detroit, and I have this on good record because I actually know people unlike other people, guys in Detroit were getting pissed off. And they were getting irate with Scott Bernstein because he continued to back up a guy who was lying and making up stories that never existed. Now, here's my question to all of you in the chat. And I don't mean this to be an asshole. I'm asking a legitimate, I haven't forgotten, agnostic, trust me. Let me ask you a legitimate question. If you're an author of a book, you have to have some basic knowledge, okay? When you claim you have sources, but your sources are two dipshit losers from Philadelphia who don't know nothing, who hide bushes like fucking Geraldo, the question really becomes, are you investigating your material or are you just regurgitating nonsense? And the thing is everything Gunnar Lindblom said was a lie. Everything he's ever stated is bullshit. I was the first one to ever come out and call him a fraud. And of course, he went nuts and threatened a baseball bat my head and all of these little things. But here is my question, and I really want you guys to answer this because I want to make sure I'm not fucking delusional. If you are going to call yourself a mob expert and be taken seriously, why on earth would you back up somebody knowing they're lying, especially when you're from that area? Why would you back up somebody's lies? What good does it do? Do you feel bad for the guy? You want to help him sell fucking books? I mean, what is the reason why you would do that? And the only reason why he admitted to it was because he got called out very, very badly on social media and YouTube over backing him. And it got so bad that he had to come out and go on 2 different shows. Maybe it was 3, could be wrong. And he had to admit that he lied and he covered for this guy. So in terms of covering organized crime, that makes it so that you have no fucking integrity whatsoever. None. Zero accountability, zero responsibility, and zero integrity. Money is exactly why. Exactly why. Scott thought people would believe him, therefore it would raise his clout. Well, he doesn't have much clout in organized crime circles. Let me tell you that, because I know some things nobody knows about him that he really doesn't want me to say. And it's not about bashing the guy, but I'm going to bring up example number 2. Example number 2 is he wrote a lie-filled article a couple of years ago about some people in South Philadelphia. And I've talked about this before. And he said that somebody's daughter was getting married, and at this rehearsal dinner or whatever the fuck, that this certain alleged guy in organized crime sat everybody at a table based on their rank and which family they were. The problem with that is the guy doesn't have a daughter. There was no wedding. Either he invented the entire fucking story, or once again, he goes and sees Dave Ratweiser and George Anesthesia, and he gets bullshit information, which isn't even true. And then when I try to correct him so he doesn't embarrass himself, and I say, listen, not for nothing, the guy you're talking about, I'm very tight with. You're not telling the truth. None of this ever happened. He doesn't give a shit because he believes everything he's told. So once again, if you believe everything you're told and you have no accountability and you have no fucking standards, then you have no credibility when you do things like that, or you can use words like allegedly, right? So all this has happened over the last few years. He doesn't like me. He says he sent me nasty grams. He was going to sue me. Sue me for what? I'm just telling the truth about you. If you don't like it, that's your fucking problem, you Shrek looking motherfucker. Because that's how I see it. That's just how I see it. It's not personally, I don't like the guy. I don't like the fact that he lied about people I knew. And that's the problem. If you want to earn a reputation for at least getting the facts right, that's one thing. Or if you want to have if you want to subject yourself to different ideas and different opinions, like say, for instance, I opine on the state of organized crime. Well, that's just my fucking opinion. It doesn't make it a fucking fact. But when you intentionally write things that are lies and you don't give a shit, that's like a big problem. And it only proves to me that you don't know. Like, guys always say, oh, I got these contacts. I'm going to tell you the truth. 95% of the people doing mob content don't know anybody. I'm telling you the truth. Because if they did, they wouldn't say half the shit they do, because it's wrong. And it's not about getting it right. It's just about have respect for people. There's another content creator who puts out fucking murder allegations on people that were never even accused of murder. And to me, that's just asinine. There are certain things, if you want to cover topics, you want to be salacious, you want to be fucking Geraldo, go right the fuck ahead. But when you start putting people's names with crimes they were never, ever even accused of, there's something mentally fucking wrong with you. Because that's not work. That's like National Enquirer type of fucking shit. And that's just the goddamn truth. So I let pretty much all of this go. Exactly. Thank you. I laughed my ass off when I heard that wedding story. I'm not a mob expert, but who can believe that fails the laugh test? It's even funnier because the guy called me on the phone. He says, Kujin, you're not going to believe this shit. This asshole wrote some article that my daughter's getting married. He goes, I don't even have a daughter. What the fuck is this guy talking about? And that's my point. And you try to like do the nice thing and reach out and explain. You're putting up bad information. They don't give a shit because they know best. If I have to call 2 beat reporters who jerk each other off in the fucking bushes, who have pictures of Phil Narducci, Joey Merlino on their wall and lick them nightly because they have weird male fantasies about gangsters, then it's over. It's fucking over. They stalked these guys. It's the weirdest shit to me, because who else would like put a fucking camera over a wooden fence while Uncle Joe Agambi is getting a suntan on the back porch, not bothering nobody? Freaks. That's who does that type of shit. So moving forward to that, I had pretty much let go of not really liking some of the shit that Shrek does, Bernstein. Uh, but then he did two things I didn't like. The first thing is that he was on a show and he was basically alleging that someone who just got out of prison, I'm not going to mention the guy's name, was meeting in social clubs, meeting all these people, wheeling and dealing. Guy's not doing any of that. He's not doing any of that. And why would you even say that? And second of all, where is the confirmation that that's going on? Do you really think a guy who just spent like 15 years in prison, first day out, is going to go, well, I'm going to go to the social club and have meetings? If you had any common sense, you stupid fuck, you would know all the clubs got closed 2 years ago down there. So that tells me you have no fucking idea what's going on. He goes, oh, well, they're meeting at the clubs. And the clubs have been closed for 2 fucking years, 2.5 years. Dumbass. So once again, either you're inventing or you're listening to these two dopes who have no clue which way the fucking egg fucks. But you don't fucking, a guy who just got out that's still on paper, you don't start talking shit about. You don't start putting them in positions. The only position you know is the one that's face down and ass up. That's the fucking truth, jerk off. I get tired of it. So here's the other thing. So in ignoring that, my buddy Chris sent me a video. He says, oh, you might want to watch this. I said, listen, unless it's about my friend or my friends, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to watch it. Well, sadly, when I got back from vacation, guess what I did? I watched it. And oh, was I happy. And let me tell you why. This motherfucker, Scott Bernstein, took a guy, his name, I'm not even going to tell him the guy's name because I do know the guy, who happens to be related to somebody else, okay? This is a guy who's never been arrested in his life, has a beautiful wife, has a beautiful kid, doesn't bother anybody. He's a New York guy now living in Philly. He's never done anything wrong in his life. He busts his ass. But because he's related to somebody, suddenly he's a messenger of the Philadelphia Mafia to the Gambino crime family. It's the most capricious bullshit I've ever seen. Because A, there's zero truth to it. B, that doesn't even make logical sense. So I don't understand for the life of me why you would take a guy who's never been arrested, he's not a gangster. But you just on your show put him on the Fed's radar because you're a fucking imbecile. And you don't go allegedly, you tell it like you fucking know it. And you don't, because it's not, if you knew the guy, I know the guy, and I can tell you for a certifiable fact, he is no fucking gangster. He never ran errands for this one and that one and for the Gambinos. The fuck out of here. But it's reckless shit like that. It's reckless shit like that that pisses me off. Why are you going to put a guy who's never done anything, who's got a little boy he loves more than life itself, because he's related to somebody, he's married to somebody, somebody's sister, that makes him a fucking gangster? What, are you retarded? Like, that's how stupid and ignorant this guy is. He just repeats nonsense and bullshit and doesn't care who it affects. Like I said, it's one thing if you want to have an opinion. It is a completely another thing to invent and distort. And so I'm going to offer this up to Scott. Since Scott seems to know everything, Scott, here's your invite. I will take you to South Philly, and I'll guarantee you one thing. You won't say any of that shit to anybody there. Because even the wannabes had knocked the shit out of you. There's a way you conduct yourself as a fucking man, and apparently you didn't learn the last time somebody smacked you the fuck around in Detroit. And you have a big issue with me telling that story. I already know that, because those are facts. Do you want to say it's not? Okay. So at the end of the day, it really just gets to the point with me where if you want to just talk about the history, go right the fuck ahead. If you want to have your opinion, I don't give a shit. But don't put guys' names you don't fucking know into crimes they weren't even ever fucking accused of. It's so easy for some of you to sit at home, type on your keyboard, and think you're tough guys. But you won't go say that to them. You won't. Leave them the fuck alone. Unless a guy's indicted, why waste your time? Why waste your time? Chris, do you want to come on for a few minutes? And that's the other thing. There's another content creator who was talking about a guy over here on Mulberry Street who ain't a fucking gangster. He runs a fucking legitimate restaurant. And he's saying, oh, yeah, this guy's a gangster. If you knew anything, you'd know this guy was the nicest guy in the fucking world. Ain't no gangster. But I'm going to tell you something, Jeff Nadeau. I'm going to tell you something. His gangster friends know what you said. That's how stupid these people are. That's how stupid they are. What, because a guy's Italian, he's a gangster? Come on, you stop watching Goodfellas and jerk it off. Please. You know? Oh, yeah, that's another one. The alleged Staten Island crew with the jewel heist recently, they're calling a guy a rat, the wrong guy. Yeah, of course. Of course. But that's, that's designed to drum up talk. You know what I mean? And listen, for anybody that likes Scott Bernstein, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. He's a smart guy. But cut the bullshit. Stop that already. You think you're slick and sly sitting with some goofball who looked like he just broke out of the fucking Bronx Zoo, who's got rat turds in his teeth, and you want me to take you seriously when you start talking about a guy who just got out of prison being, well, word is what word? What word are you getting? What contact do you have? Because if it's Ratweiser and Anastasia police, they're too busy jerking each other off. Are you there, Chris?
Yeah, I'm here. Could you hear me? Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know what's up with this camera. I don't change it. All of a sudden, it's the C instead of my face, but that's all right. I'm here.
All right. Well, you're here. What's going on with you?
Oh, nothing. Just another stupid fucking day. Not a good week. A lot of aggravation and shit, but hey, that's the going great.
Listen, you're preaching to the motherfucking choir about fucking an interesting.
Look, I mean, what could go wrong, man? A little good gumbo, beautiful weather. I can't imagine.
Yeah, let's leave it right there, please.
Yeah, I'm not going to say another word. It's just that one hit me for a loop. But no, hey, let's backtrack a little bit about that the Capone thing. I know you dropped a little. I didn't know if you wanted me to come on that soon the first time. I just waiting for you to get done. But my question is, if the Irish won the war, is how much would that have affected the Italians in New York and the mob in other countries, other cities?
Right.
I think that would have played a big role in how things would have shaped up.
There's so many moving variables. I don't know. I mean, there's even a good question as to whether New York would have gotten involved in that, and they might have. They might have. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like if New York was was earning any money from it, you said they kind of weren't, but if they had a piece of something there that was worth their while,
then then they would have gotten involved. Absolutely, 100%. What a crazy time period that was.
Oh fuck, man, that's got to be crazy. And then like the other factor is, everybody knows the Irish weren't as organized as the Italians. So long term, they could have, I'm sure there'll probably eventually be some infighting with the Irish. But the mafia, they had the backing, or could have had the backing, of all the other mob cities, where the Irish were in Chicago, might have just had St. Paul, right?
Yeah.
So, long term, I don't think they hold it together.
No, I don't think long term. And it was a good point that somebody brought up in the chat is, if the Irish had been able to just get along, and that goes all the way back to the 5 points.
Yeah.
If they had been able to organize and stay together, then they become a very, very powerful unit. But much like other, sort of organized crime factions, it's just infighting and greed.
Yeah, they don't call the Irish stubborn for nothing, but you think with so much money they were making in Chicago, both the Capone side, Torrio side, and then the Irish side, that they would have just been happy making so much fucking money that they're making and not having to worry about each other, going at each other, gunning each other down. I mean, what more of a different life are you going to live if you have the other half of Chicago as opposed to all the money you're already got now?
I agree with you. You look at guys like Pablo Escobar, how much is enough? And I think a lot of it, we can argue the money side of that, but a lot of it is the authority. the authority of being able to do what you want. And I think that that's what sort of the elixir is. That's why, like, it's the old question of why would a guy who's done 20 years in the can come out and go right back to the streets? Well, initially he does it because he needs money, but if he becomes an overwhelming success, and legitimately, why fucking go back? But it's like guys always have said to me, it's the action. They can't get rid of the action.
And I can understand that. You know, it's kind of like gambling. Everybody knows it's bad for them, but they just keep doing it because they like the action. You know, I could roll with that, man. It's understandable, but you would think after if you got pinched and you spent so much time in the can, you would want to, if you're okay financially, you would stay away then from the legal shit. But not in their DNA, I guess.
Well, the statement has always been made is that money and power, but you can't have both.
Yeah, right. I guess so.
Legitimately, like, that's a really good argument because even the most powerful men, you know, get caught. And so when you look at guys like Escobar, not that I'm in any way, fashion, or form a narco expert, but somebody like Escobar had both at the same time, but he allowed that power aspect to ruin him. That and other shit, but you get the point. I mean, at what point, you know, the guy had fucking hippos and zebras and shit, burning money to stay warm.
Hippos are still there. They fucking made it, and there's like, you know, next generation hippos are still there in Colombia.
I mean, he had enough to like buy fucking countries. Why didn't he just say, you know what, I'm done. Let somebody else take over. And when you look at sort of the godmother, what the fuck is her name?
Oh, Giselle de Blanca.
Yeah, Griselda Blanco. Like, I talk to her son all the time, you know, on Instagram or whatever. But what I find to be interesting is she gets out of prison, she goes back to Colombia, and they kill her. And they kill her not because of anything she might have done in the past, but the fear that she would attempt to start to try to regain a foothold again. And that's why they killed Griselda.
Wow.
You know, and that's it just, I mean, they killed how many of her kids? You know, Michael Corleone is the last one that's alive, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know you spoke to her kids, but now being how well like we get along with our girlfriend so much from time to time, how would you like to have her date her as a fucking girlfriend?
Oh no,
piss her off.
Oh no, oh no, because if anybody did, she'd kill him. She wouldn't hesitate.
Well, that happened, right? Didn't she kill one of them or something?
Yeah, she did, and then she tried to kill like the black narcotics drug dealer she met via pen pal. She tried to kill him too.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so Bernstein said on a show Leonetti had the gun hidden in a freezer when Leonetti shot and killed Vince Falcone. Then he wrote the book Mafia Prince with Phil. Drop your email and I'll send you the clip. Oh, I don't need a clip of anything that asshole says. You know, once again, you know, if you're going to write a book about informants, at least give your audience both sides of the coin. If you're not going to give the audience the second side of the coin, then you're not doing yourself any justice. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about this whole Bernstein shit?
Well, I mean, I think the same thing you do is, see, people that cover this stuff, they don't have a moral compass. Like, it's one thing to cover the history, but when they start talking about present day stuff, current stuff, they don't care who they hurt. Like, if it helps them, they don't care if they're getting somebody's name wrong. They don't care if they're inserting someone's name into something they never did. And that's what's unfortunate. Like, they go unchecked. I mean, not unchecked, you call them out, but you know what I mean? And I just think it's like you said, it's reckless. And, you know, after he completely made an ass out of himself with Gunner Gunner made an ass out of himself about the daughter's wedding who never existed, you think he'd be more careful, but he's not, you know, so.
No, I think, listen, I could sit here with a panel of 5 people and I could opine about the state of organized crime in 2023, but I can tell you one thing I wouldn't do. I would not name anybody, and I would certainly not pretend like I knew. It's just, right. You know, listen, I'm very protective of people that I know. And I told you that day, I says, well, as long as he doesn't talk about my buddy, right, then I really don't give a shit. But little did I know he was talking about somebody else I've known for a while. And,
Right.
just because you're married to somebody who's related to an alleged boss of anything
Yeah.
does not mean you're doing anything. And it's just, to me, it's like, it's sniping, and it's well, word on the street. Well, what word on the street are you getting? Because that's not like, that's why I was laughing my ass off when he said, "Oh, Mousy or whatever was down in the clubs." The clubs have been closed for 2 fucking years.
Right. Right.
Like, so you're a fucking dunce. And instead of like just accepting that his information is bad and doing research, he relies on, well, that's, according to what I understand, that's why he got his first book deal through Anastasia. So that would make sense. And I get he's loyal to them, but they're both liars. I mean, George Anastasia destroyed his fucking career with John Alight's book. Nothing but absolute lies from beginning to end. And when you see that, you almost, when they asked, and here's my thing about Anastasia is I like George as an author. And then he did some shit personally that I'm not going to get into, but he said when they asked him, did you just take his word for it? Did you do any research? Oh, I get the 302s, which back all that up. But there aren't any 302s to back that up. So you're lying. And I think George, unfortunately, he's a smart guy. I think, unfortunately, he bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And at that point, your tail's between your fucking legs. What are you going to do? You can't really come out and admit that you got hosed, but he hasn't done shit since then. So it just becomes, it aggravates me to no end, because I know the guy that Bernstein kept mentioning. And if you met the guy and you knew the guy, you would know he is not some intermingler between the Gambino crime family and whoever the fuck else. That's the stupidest fucking thing I've
just
ever
a regular
heard.
guy, you know what I mean?
He's a regular guy that busts his fucking ass, but they want to insert his name because he's related to somebody. And just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean you like them. Doesn't mean you do shit.
If you work a legit job, you know what I mean? Which, I mean, I don't know what he does. I assume he does.
And what stupider organized crime boss would employ a brother-in-law when they know that's the first thing the feds are going to fucking look at?
Right. Yeah.
The very first thing they're going to do.
Right.
So it's
that's
like,
hilarious.
I don't get it. But like, I go back to the whole social club thing. Oh, well, they're hanging out at the social clubs. No, they're not. They've been closed for 2 years.
And the other thing about Mousy is from what I heard, he's working a legit job.
No, he is. I think
you know what I mean? And he has to as part of his, parole agreement or whatever. So
right.
He's
listen,
doing what he's supposed to do.
Listen, I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. Right. But, I've never heard nothing bad about the guy. The guy did his time. Leave him the fuck alone.
Yeah.
What makes you think that a guy gets out of the can and in day 3, he's like, all right, I'm putting 20 grand on the street? Nobody is going to do that, because he's going to be watched. And then what Bernstein is able to do is, just because a guy got out, he says, oh yeah, now he's an upper this, he's an upper that. How the fuck do you know? And why would you even assert that? It's like, it's stupid. I mean, he said a bunch of things in that show that were just so ill-informed and like not even accurate. It just like
you said, if he's getting all his material from the 2 idiots in Philadelphia, and those guys get a lot of stuff wrong, it's,
Well, it's funny.
Really think about it. How could a guy that lives in Detroit, nowhere near Philly, wouldn't make a difference if he is, know anything about the inner workings of it?
No,
you know what I mean? Like that. That's me. Like that's like me right now trying to say I know exactly the inner workings of what's going on in what's ever left of the Tampa Bay mob or something like that.
Right.
You don't it's just a lot of hearsay. Like if Scott Dietz happened to mention something, now all of a sudden I'm an expert on the Tampa Bay mob. It's ridiculous. I don't know. But
let me address this really quick. What's your favorite episode of the Wonder Years? You know what? I really can't pick a favorite one, but I couldn't stand the last season of it. So I don't know. I really, off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
I remember the kid went to work with his father to Wonder Years.
That's it. That's right. And his father was getting abused. I remember that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I can't remember specific seasons. I just remember little of our shows, just little clips here and there. And that's going back in time.
I think I like the one where he's dating he was seeing Winnie, but that kind of split up. And then he starts dating another girl in class almost completely by accident. And then he really doesn't like her. And then she finds out and she goes like batshit crazy on him, trying to ruin his life. That's a pretty good one because that's what kids do. That's what kids do. Interesting topic.
Sure.
In my opinion, Capone and his crew were more inclusive than the Northside Irish, which gives more potential. No, I would agree. 100% I would agree with that. 100%. So do you want to tell anybody about the book you've been reading?
Yeah, I did find it interesting, man. So I got the book called The Life We Chose. I'm only about halfway done with it. The book's by Big Billy D'Elia, who took over for Russell Buffalino when he stepped down. And there's some interesting tidbits in there. I don't know how accurate it is, but, definitely some interesting tidbits. So the first one is Buffalino had a little spat, we'll say, with Carlo Gambino. And this I find interesting. So I assume, now let me ask you this. Did Buffalino and Gambino, they both kind of became bosses in 57, right? 1957?
Pretty much the same time period, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't, everybody looked at Buffalino, I guess, as the elder guy, the elder statesman. So he was with Billy and a couple of his guys in New York City in some dress factory he owned.
Right.
And it says Gambino's nephew came there and he said, hey, I want to get involved in the dress business. And one of Buffalino's guys said, no, you take a hike. The nephew came back again. And this time they went to get Russ. And Russ said, listen, if you don't leave right now, you're going out in a box. Right. And Russ got all pissed off. And then it says Russ, told Billy, he said, let's come on. And him and a couple of his guys were going for a ride. They say, where? We're going to Carlo Gambino's house on Long Island. They go to Gambino's house, and the book says Gambino tells Buffalino, Russ, you disrespected me. You tell my nephew you're going to put him in a box. I'll put you in a box. And then it says Neil Delacroce stepped up, was there real quick. It says, Carlo, you can't talk to him like that. He says, he's a boss, and we'd have to kill all of them, and we can't do that. And then it just said they kind of like worked things out, and everything was okay after that. But it's interesting. That's the stuff that I really like to hear about, whether how true it is or not, is just like you don't hear those inner conversations, those inner workings of how they interacted and shit like that. What was that?
Sorry, agnostics trying to get me kicked off YouTube.
I see. He's a funny dude, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. I ain't gonna say anything. But
I can't. I put up what he said, and I didn't realize what it said. I should have read it first. Well, here's my thing, right? And I think this goes universally for mob guys. First of all, listen, and this may upset Russ a little bit, but if you were involved in organized crime, you have no business writing a fucking book. That goes against everything that Russell ever believed in, right? Yep. So that's number one. Number two, there is the argument of whether or not Billy was an informant or not. I'm not going to have that argument today, but I will say this. People often inflate their own role in things. And I personally and particularly will say this. And I said this to you earlier, but I'll repeat it because everybody heard what you said. Does anybody believe in the chat without any hesitation that why would Carlo Gambino's nephew go to Scranton or Pittston to get
No, this is in New York City, bud.
Okay, so but why would Russell Buffalino have anybody in New York City?
Well, he was there with them. It was like the way it was written, just to clarify, it wasn't just Billy there himself with a couple of guys. Once Billy got to know the way the book is written, once he got to know Russ took him under his wing after so long. Billy would accompany Russ. He was his driver and drive him to New York City. And, with sometimes a few other guys from our area. And then,
all right, so let's pretend this happened in New York City. Number one, somebody threatened Carlo Gambino's nephew. They're out of order, not Carlo's nephew. That's number one. Number two, I think the real question is when did Billy start really working for Russell?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but I know like their first meetings and stuff, they were pretty young. Like it was just like out of high school and stuff, like right before he's going to go to college and shit like that is when early 20s, I'd say, maybe even late teens is when they, first clicked. This area is a very small area. Like, and a lot of people talk about Scranton, but it was really Pittston. Pittston, PA is where all the Italians are from. Pittston, PA, my God, that's like 8,000 people.
I think based on some of the things you've told me, I don't believe Billy D'Elia at all. I really don't. And I think a lot of it's because when you fail to sort of have the devil in the details, usually that's an indicator that you're lying. The secondary thing to that is, and listen, I don't know Billy D'Elia, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions onto him, but I don't buy that. I don't buy for 1 second that Russell and Carlo had a confrontation, because first of all, Carlo never got caught on a wiretap in his life. He was one of the most surveilled guys prior to John Gotti. Do you really think he's going to let Russell come to his house and then they're going to have a bitch fight about a misunderstanding about a fucking dress? It just sounds so.
Well, I think it was kind of like Russell just said, we're going. It was this guy kind of on a whim, out of aggravation. Let's just show up and straighten this out.
You can't just show up at Carlo Gambino's house.
I know. I'm just telling you.
I just think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit. And I think a lot of it is designed because he wants to make himself sound more important. I mean, why on God's earth are you going to take a guy? Like, the one thing that I kept sort of seeing repeated over and over in some of the photos that you sent me was, well, I didn't ask any further about that because it didn't concern me.
He says that a lot.
That's so bullshit, because mob guys are gossipers. They all tell each other everything. Like, there isn't some weird code where you're driving and you go, he's the boss, I'm not asking nothing. Are you kidding me? Come on. So, like I said, I don't have the luxury of having the book. I'm glad I didn't buy it now, but I have a hard time believing some of the shit he says. But I agree with you that it's interesting hearing some of the side notes. Tell the crab story. That shit was hilarious.
Oh, I was just going to tell you. Yeah. So the one thing Billy did, and you got to understand, I don't take everything I say as 100% this way or that way. It's just little tidbits. But the one thing Billy did with his interactions with Russell, how Russell was like, everybody views him as this low-key, easygoing, quiet guy, the quiet Don, grandpa-like. His interactions, it seemed like there's a lot of cursing. Like, what'd you do this for, you stupid motherfucker? Like, he gave Russell that brute thuggish side. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. So one of them was, I guess he was back here in Pittston somewhere, and Russell liked to cook, and he was at some restaurant probably that he owned a piece of, and he's back there with some other guy cooking, and they had a bunch of live crabs. And one of the fucking crabs got on the ground and started flying around, clawing people. And the guy Russell was with, some old timer, took a gun out and fucking shot the crab. And Russell said, what did you do that for, you dumb old senile fuck? We could have ate that thing. But that's what I mean about, like, you hear the quiet Don, low-key, easy-going, but then the book you'll be saying, what'd you do that for, you stupid senile fuck? We could have, it was kind of shit like that. It was kind of funny.
I'm going to address Jimmy the Gent here really quick. Next thing you know, Gianni Russo and Ori Spotto are going to be talking to Dave and George and eventually forming a commission on valuetainment with Michael Franzese. Well, Ori Spotto is another liar, and Ori Spotto is another fraud, and Ori Spotto is another informant. He's an informant, and if you guys don't believe me, go to Ori Spotto Informant on YouTube, and you're going to hear Ori Spotto taping a conversation where he's negotiating with the FBI to rat on people.
Wow.
There you go. Yeah. And he wants to claim to be all of this shit. And yeah, Ori Spotto was indicted with Sonny Franzese and other people, but Ori Spotto was a fucking nothing, a nobody, a fraudster, a huckster. And he ratted out people.
And Sonny wanted to kill him too at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wish I could pull it up now, but I don't want to get like the YouTube copyright. But type in Ori Spotto Informant, and you hear him going, "This is Ori Spotto calling FBI agent 1245. Go fuck your mother." And then he's like, "So what kind of deal can you offer to me if I come in and talk? Like, if I give you information about this guy, what can you get?" Like, he's ratting. He just starts to rat.
Yeah, so, that's a rat, man. You can't.
It's just another jerk off fraud who knew a couple of people. Claimed he knew Sinatra, but he doesn't know that I know somebody in the Sinatra family who said they had never heard of that motherfucker in their life. It's amazing the people that come out with these books, and the Danny Trios of the world. The bedroom underwear bandit? Is that what they call that guy?
Holy fuck!
Yeah, I remember he sent me like some nasty threat. You better be careful. I know all about you, and I'm with the Columbus. You ain't with nothing but pizza cutters, you fucking
Oh my
idiot.
God.
And
Jesus.
that it's just unreal. Just
You know,
unreal.
you know how, like, we always, like, not always, but people discuss the morality of mob guys, how you say, like, bad guys could do good things and good people could do bad things. There's a guy in this area, and he's from New York originally. He wasn't in the mob or anything, but he did have loose associations, and he lived that type of life. And I got to know him because I met him at the casino up here, and he just started talking to me, whatever. And he was telling me back in the day where he went around and he robbed some kind of truck, and the truck had a bunch of Cabbage Patch dolls on them that were worth a lot of money. So he took the Cabbage Patch dolls, instead of selling them, he went to some hospital and gave them away to all these fucking kids. I'm like, how fucking, if you rob a truck for Cabbage Patch dolls and then you're going to the hospital to give them away, obviously you're going to get caught. But it was just the way he said it was funny. Anyways, whatever.
Sorry, I'm over here looking for Ori Spado's informant thing, and it might have gotten taken off YouTube. I'm looking for it. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see if I can actually share this. Fuck it. I'm going to share it. Present. I don't know how to. I don't know how to do this. So let's see how it works. Aha. Is that it? I can't. God, I hope I don't have anything. Fucking. Hold on. I don't know if. Can you even see that on the screen when I switch it? Can you see it? Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Can't hear it.
Hold on. All right. So then he basically goes on and starts ratting people the fuck out. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I could hear you, man. I was just waiting for you. I couldn't hear the.
Yeah, I'm going to drop the link to that video in the actual show so you can go watch it yourself. But yeah, he a rat. He just ratted out everybody. You know, that's as quick as it took.
Right.
Quick as it took. And if anybody wants to come in here making any more insults, you're just going to get banned. I don't care what you think I look like. If you're male and you're judging how I look, then that's kind of more on you.
I can't throw anybody out from being back here.
That's okay. I'm pretty much on top of it. For the most part, everybody fucking behaves. And I think a lot of that is because I'm not involved in a lot of the shenanigans that are still going on.
Yeah. But, like, so back to the Gambino thing.
Sure.
I mentioned this to Jason Meller, who's a sub of yours. He's a really good guy. And I said he couldn't believe that Russ could talk to Gambino that way and blah, 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 how powerful Gambino was. And I said, well, you know, that's true. I said, but I remember asking Jeff how powerful, and another guy actually, was Gambino prior to being boss. And he's, you know, I remember you saying he wasn't as powerful as, you know, people might assume. And Jason makes a good point, and he says, well, if Gambino wasn't all that powerful as a captain, then why did Genovese pick him to go along with the plot when he could have picked other captains like Joe Gallo, Charlie Wagons?
Because Joe Gallo never would have gone along with hitting Anastasia.
Right. So, you know, but like where, like Charlie Wagons, Joe Gallo, Carmine Lombardozzi, Jimmy Brown, Fiala, was Gambino as a captain more powerful than those guys, or?
No, I think he was more bendable.
Right.
To what Genovese wanted. Jimmy Brown Fiala went fucking apeshit when Paul Castellano got killed. John Gotti was afraid that Jimmy Brown was going to kill him.
Right.
Same thing with some of the other Joe Gallo. I mean, when after Gotti whacks Paul Castellano, he goes to Jimmy Brown Fiala's club to sit down with him, to basically feel him out, because he was that concerned that these guys were going to make a move against him. So
Wow.
I think a lot of it comes down to was Carlo powerful? Sure. I mean, he's the captain. He's he's a powerful guy.
Right.
But the problem is when you're going to have a hostile takeover, you need like-minded voices. And that's like, look at Gotti in the situation with Castellano. I mean, he needs Frankie DeCicco involved. He needs Joe Angalo to look the other way. He needs Jimmy Brown Fiala to look the other way. He needs Gravano to get involved. He needs all of the high-end captains who carry power or enough weight that could retaliate against him. Like, good example, Carlo's major concern with getting with Genovese on the Castellano, or excuse me, on the Anastasia hit was what Neil Delacroce was going to do in retaliation.
Right.
Because there were, believe it or not, Gambino met with Delacroce 2 or 3 times after the Anastasia hit to cool temperature because at one point Delacroce was going to go after him.
And he killed Tommy Rava, right?
Absolutely. And the reason, and so a lot of people say to me, well, why didn't after, the murder of Tommy Rava, why did Delacroce go nuts? Well, the reason why Gambino did it was he took the one other guy that was the lone nut and got rid of him.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty smart. That's I mean, Carlo was smart knowing to get rid of Rava and then bring Delacroce in, and for Delacroce just to go along with it. That's pretty. Did you see this agnostics comment? Not this one. When I just told the story about the Cabbage Patch Kids, I don't know if that's when you're on your phone trying to do the Orispado thing. So yeah, agnostic. I asked you if you knew the guy. The guy's name was James Votto. He's dead now. He doesn't have any connection to anybody. But he told me how he would go around robbing trucks, and he robbed the truck in New York. And there's a bunch of Cabbage Patch Kids, so he went and he gave them the bunch of fucking kids in a hospital. Agnostic said it's true. He goes, it's truck full. He said he robbed the truck with a bunch of prosthetic limbs and breasts, and they're throwing them around for days.
Oh, are you talking about this comment?
Yeah. But, I don't know if you knew the guy or it was the same situation, but it was just funny.
This is a good one. Gianni Russo still has one good woo left in him. The Nate stole his gimmick off Gianni Russo. Yeah, that was another fucking ass clown, that guy.
So get this, as I read a little further, he brings, I'm waiting to get to the Philly stuff. He brings up John Gotti, Billy, and he says he did meet, like once Billy took over and was in the Diamond District a lot in New York and stuff, that he did end up meeting John Gotti after he became boss in 85. And he says that he called Gotti for a big favor where he needed to straighten some union shit out in New Jersey or something. And Gotti did it for him. So Billy said he sent him $5,000 as a thank you. And Gotti sent the $5,000 back and said, "You're a friend. I'm not taking your money." And
John Gotti would have taken his money. Trust me.
Yeah. Right. So I don't know. But who knows? But
no, I would typically almost believe that because that kind of fits right before the time before Nicky Scarfo starts to really make headway. And so that the timing of that sort of makes sense. But at the end of the day, Billy wasn't like a big mob boss. He really wasn't. Let's just be honest about it. He was more of a crew leader than he was anything at that point. And I have you found any parts in his book yet where he has started to talk about when he was going to take over the Philly Mafia?
Not yet. Not yet.
That's the part I'm really interested in. But I think after Russ was done and Russ passes away, I mean, it was it. That was it for Pittston. That was
it. Is it? Well, like you said, that the one rule Russ put out to the commission, he wasn't going to make any more new members. So,
Gina says New Orleans here. We lost little big man's daughter. Well, Gina, I was just in the French Quarter in New Orleans last week. Too bad we didn't run into each other.
See any more Marcello stuff down there?
Yeah. Well, I'll have to tell you offline, but I met with somebody who was there. But somebody that has that last name.
Yeah.
So cool. Very nice guys. Very nice guys. Shit, there was something. Let's see. Lucky beat the shit out of Vito. No, he absolutely did. He absolutely did. There was something else I wanted to bring up, and I'm trying to think of off the top of my mind.
Oh, go ahead. I got another really funny one I got here.
All right, go ahead.
Well, okay. So I don't know how many people are familiar with the whole story about Louis de Naples and trying to get the casino in the mid 2000s, and then he got investigated and sentenced for perjury. And his priest got sentenced, I believe, with him. This priest's name was Father Sicca, right? And I remember somebody on the last chat said, "Oh, you got our Father Sicca arrested." So Billy tells a story about this Father Sicca from whenever, way back in the day when Russ was around. And he said this Father Sicca really wanted to, just kind of out of nowhere, was looking to get a hold of Russ and meet up with him. And it was just kind of odd, and became very friendly with him. So here this Father Sicca was trying to throw this big benefit, some big banquet thing for underprivileged kids, just to raise a lot of money for kids and charity. So Billy, the way he tells the story was, Russ obliged them, got the entertainment and all that. And he says, I guess afterwards, Russ said, "Billy, what are you doing with this guy?" And he says, "Oh, he's all right, Russ." He goes, "No, that's what I'm asking." He said, "What are you doing with the guy?" And he says, well, he told me I could take a little cut for helping him out. And Russ says, no. He goes, "You don't take, I don't care if he gave you a cut. You don't take it off a priest. Give it back to him, because it's all going to kids." So Billy gives it back to him. He says, a week later, this Father Sicca showed up in a brand new fucking red Trans Am.
Oh, jeez.
The way he tells the story in the book's hilarious.
You're not going to believe this. So check this out. So I'm sitting here minding my business, right? And my Instagram goes off, and I pick up my phone, like, what the fuck is this? So Ma's boss, when he's supposed to be in here, he's at Jerry Blavitt's.
Oh,
yeah. I'm watching live, literally right now. Hold on. I probably shouldn't do this. I don't know if you guys can even see that, or it probably won't.
It's getting
there it is.
Yeah.
Ma's boss is going to be pissed. He's like, "Wait, you were live streaming me while I was live streaming you?"
Oh, you can't see anything except people dancing.
Yeah, they're at Jerry Blavitt's place. One last big blow. And I said, "You're supposed to be in here, you prick. What are you doing?" How was your New Orleans trip? Have you ever felt heat like this in your life? No. I was sweating in areas of my body I didn't know existed. It was very hot there. It was very, very hot. Gaspipe Casso played Gotti and Frank DeChico when they approached him about whacking Paul. Well, that would be subject to interpretation, but I don't disagree with it either. I think that whole entire hit on Paul was, I had saw something earlier I wanted to address, said something about Paul having a heart attack or some shit. I don't know if I can find that in the chat. Here we go. On today's show, that hypothetical about Paul having a heart attack and Bilotti taking the big seat was extremely interesting. Yeah. My theory is that let's pretend Paul Castellano has a heart attack. They're going to have the next in command. Let's pretend that Neil Delacroce is dead at the time, cancer. Bilotti would have been the next successor in line. But my theory is that let's pretend had Neil Delacroce still been alive, I think he would have allowed Bilotti to become boss. I don't think he would have interfered. But if Delacroce is dead, I don't know if the Gambinos accept Bilotti. I really don't. And a lot of people don't realize Tommy Bilotti was a gangster through and through, complete and utter gangster. But, that's why I don't like variable questions like that, because there's just so much that's into play. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Let's see. Peace and prosperity to everybody in the chat. Can you do a what if Luciano not being deported? And what would have been the outcome with the commission and Anastasia and Willie Moretti? Wow. That's a fucking whopper there, man. That's a big one. Well, I'll tell you this much. I think if Luciano's not deported, I think he remains in full control of the complete utterly he remains in control of the mob until he dies of a heart attack.
Yeah, because Anastasia was very loyal to him, right?
Oh, absolutely. They wouldn't have touched a hair on Anastasia's head. But I will say this. But with some of the shenanigans that Anastasia was up to, like with the shit on the docks, with the shit with Lansky, that might have pushed Luciano to kind of say, but then again, maybe Anastasia doesn't do that because Luciano would have backed him in certain facets of that. You know what I mean?
Money. Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to. Really, the the end of the day, when I was a kid, a lot of people were, he didn't finish his sentence. Paulie gave Sammy the big pump. I have never heard anybody more engrossed and infatuated with a cock pump in my life. Yeah, I was curious what the cock pump looked like, so I found a guy who had one. I says, "Hey, let's go in the men's room. Show me a cock pump. Can I touch it? What's it feel like? How does it work?" Like, I don't get like who fucking does that? That's exactly what Sammy said. So yeah,
I know. I heard it. It was fucking nuts. You want to try to move on to the next thing you were going to talk about, as far as the Q&A type stuff about how the St. Valentine's Day Massacre could have been handled differently.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What could have been done. So here's my take. Okay, I think so. You had to strike back after what O'Banion was doing, taking out his guys and stuff.
Right.
Capone's guys. You couldn't do nothing. So I think of what Genovese did going to Carlo with the Anastasia thing. I would put some feelers out there in some way to find if there was any Irish guys in O'Banion's crew that were maybe not so happy working with them, or that you could have made really rich, that would secretly, you could plot with, go along with their plan, and then in a more stealthy way, take out O'Banion and some of the top guys, put the guy you made a deal with in charge, and you split the turf and you split the fucking income. I don't know if that would have happened, but that was my answer.
I think, realistically, a large part of the problem with Dan O'Banion is I think he was okay with like just the way that Johnny Torrio laid everything out. But the problem is they gave him like a small section to work within, and then the Jenna family just starts encroaching into the turf. And O'Banion's saying, wait a minute here, like this is what you gave us. You've got the Jennas that are encroaching now. Could you please say something to them? And Torrio was like, I really don't want to get involved. So really by proxy, O'Banion would have been in his right to be furious. Right. You gave me this area, but it's like looking a gift horse in the mouth. Torrio's not doing O'Banion any favors. He's saying, oh, by the way, we own all of Mississippi. You get the part nobody fucking wants.
Right.
In retaliation, O'Banion says, okay, you motherfucker. Well, your booze distributorship is worth a ton of money, so I'm going to move all your speakeasies to my turf. How you like that? And that's how it all gets started. And really the only way that Al Capone at any point could have turned that around is to really kind of do what I've always said, spread it out, make it even. It's all about money. But the problem is that, like I said, there's too much greed going on. And no matter how much you give somebody, they're going to want more. So I don't think they could have coexisted. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, see, I didn't know that O'Banion had such a small piece. Like I just saw, you always hear one controlled the north side, the other south side. So I thought it was a fairly equal share territory wise. I didn't know that. But
no, it was very, very minuscule. And so Torrio tries to do the right thing, right? And he says, okay, well, listen, we've got the ship. The ship is pulling X, Y, and Z. We're going to give you 25% of that. So he's going out of his way to like give him more incentive to just kind of get along. But the second the Jennas start stepping over the line and he doesn't step in like a man and say, you guys can't fucking do that, this is promised to him, that's where everything really gets derailed.
Right.
And then it becomes a fuck you, and it becomes a massive pissing contest.
Yep.
The only other way they could have done that is divide Chicago up into four territories, and then you're not even including like African American gangsters and Irish and the Jewish and every other fucking conglomerate that was there. But he tried to do
in more money in total. For Prohibition, Chicago or New York?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I think New York, and that just goes because of the Kennedy thing and the lineage there. And I think the fact that they really controlled north of the border better than anybody. And I think north of the border is really what's important, because the things that are coming in from Europe through Canada, New York has sort of their hands on. Yes, Detroit has a big part of that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how that was sort of cut down the middle. But a lot of it, Frank Costello was probably the guy in Prohibition, like the guy. And as a lot of people don't know, Frank Costello paid off the fucking Coast Guard, or at
Yeah,
least
that's crazy.
the early sort of Coast Guard system that we had. And he also bought warships through Joe Kennedy and had them painted like Coast Guard ships.
Yeah, I remember you
No,
saying
this
that.
is a highly inventive sort of thing, and that's obviously, I mean, that show would be great to put on YouTube because I think people would get a kick out of it. There is something I wanted to ask you about because you listened to the show today, right? That we put out over on the paid
Not the
podcast.
whole thing. I got like, I don't know, maybe halfway through, about an hour in or so.
Oh, so you even gotten to the the
No,
Apalachin
not
trial?
yet. Dude, when I got done texting you, I had a guy call me, a buddy of mine, my Penn State friend. He was on the phone with me for an hour and a half. I finally just said I gotta go. So I didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah, because I was curious as to, is there anybody in the chat who listened to our paid podcast today? Because I wanted to get some feedback on the Appalachian paperwork, or Appalachian, however you fucking say it.
What did it say? Like, what? Sum it up, unless you don't want to.
So I think the narrative. So there's always been two points of view about how the cops found out about that meeting in 1957. What's often been said is that in 1957, two state troopers just kind of stumbled across cars and license plates, and surreptitiously they just did a small investigation, whatever the fuck. Well, I'm trying to fix my camera here. And that led them to X, Y, and Z. But I have paperwork that I don't think anybody's ever really talked about, and the story is much deeper and much bigger than anybody realizes. And one of the interesting things that I found out was they went from just a simple hotel bill dispute to a full-blown federal investigation within a day. And here's my thing. That's not how law enforcement works.
Right.
That leads me to believe, without a hesitation or any doubt, somebody dropped a dime, because in these files, I have plane reservations. I have names you've never heard before that were at that meeting. Like, I'll just give you an example. James Ostico, Sciandra stayed at Zakari's residence
They were with Rush. They're the two guys that were the strongest in Rush's crew.
So listen to this: Russell Buffalino, Bobby DeSimone, Savello, Scozzari, Joe Ida. They were all together with Russell Buffalino, 11-13-57. The bill was paid for 5 at the Hotel Casey in Scranton, PA. This is all sort of on their way to that actual meeting. Let's see. Paul Castellano, Carlo Gambino, Tommy Rava, Michael Miranda, car driven by Castellano. They stayed at the right hotel in Kirkwood. Like, this is some insane shit that they had. So basically in the first part of the series that we're covering over on the podcast, you're going to find out who's related, how they're related, and how quick the FBI found out. It's crazy. Like Profaci and Magliacco being second cousins, which would mean Joe Bonanno was second cousins with Profaci as well. So you have all the lineage, you have like crime files. It's like there's absolutely 0% chance, because one of the things they did is they went to the hotel. There was a dispute on the bill. Joe Barbara Jr. came and said, put it on my dad's Canada Bottling Company account. And they're like, okay, not a big deal. So at that point, there's not a crime. Why are the cops still investigating? Why are they looking at every fucking license plate in the parking lot? That leads them to doing a background check with the state troopers and New York State Police, which leads them to Joe Barbara Sr.'s business address. They go there. That leads them to go to Joe Barbara's house. How do you, if there's no crime, right? Because there's no emphasis, there's 0 crimes that have taken place. And the paperwork is clear, because I have it from the judge overseeing the case, that just because people have past crimes doesn't make them a criminal. Just because they go to a meeting or have lunch together does not make that a felony, right? So it's very clearly stated, yet they called in all available units and set up roadblocks. Why would you set up roadblocks based on the fact that people from out of state are meeting together? So in other words, they had no reason to look any of these people up, but yet somehow magically in 24 hours, all of this shit starts showing up. It's crazy. So it just leads me to believe somebody dropped a dime. This was not just two cops who stumbled upon a hotel bill discrepancy, because within 24 hours they had flight arrangements for 35 different guys. They
Well,
had information on 67.
In that explanation where you talked about the FBI, so you're saying the FBI with Russ and Estico and Sciandra, that they kept tabs on them on their way up to Apalachin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that right there leads you to believe they knew something was going on.
Of course. Well, because they open up, the commissioner opens up the investigation with, I guess I can read it. About 3:30 p.m. on November 13th of 57, Sergeant Edgar Croswell and Trooper Vincent Vistaco of New York State Police were making a routine investigation into the Parkway Motel, Route 17, Westport, New York, concerning a bad check received by the proprietor of the motel. The sergeant observed Joseph Barbara Jr. of Apalachin, a suburb of Binghamton, in conversation with Helen Schroeder, the wife of the proprietor. And after the departure of Mr. Barber Jr., Miss Schroeder informed the cops or the troopers that he had reserved rooms for November 13th and 14th and instructed her to charge the room to the Canada Dry Bottling Company in Endicott, New York, of which Joseph Barbara Sr. was actually president. Miss Schroeder had asked, I can see your face now.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Mrs. Schroeder had asked Barbara to register for the guests, but he said he did not know what men were actually coming, and they had a convention about Canada Dry. Later in the evening, Sergeant Croswell and Trooper Vasico drove up to the home of Joe Barbara Sr. Why would they drive up to his home? There's no reason for that. So there was something else going on with this. But I went through like the first, I don't know, I want to say 40 pages of 250. It's crazy, the information that they had. So
well, here's my take on it. And until you kind of just mentioned that in prior, I kind of felt the opposite of how you say two cops don't just stumble upon this and fight. Because here's the thing. I don't feel like that anymore after what you said about them, the FBI following Russ and his crew up there. I do think somebody dropped a dime and they knew ahead of time. But prior to that, like when you're in this small little town like Apalachin, where the one little main street with a little diner, and it's just where those
we should go there.
Towns, everyone knows everyone. And you have a ton of fucking Cadillacs and a ton of people all congregating in one area where everybody knows everybody in this town. That's going to raise some red flags, like something's a little off here. Who are all these people? Even if they didn't commit a crime. But like I said, being that you got that paperwork, now
once, and I didn't want to go too far, but once you get to like the fourth page, you start to say, wait a second, this isn't making sense, because they were all told, the police, after they go to the house and they run like weapons checks on guys, weapons permits and stuff, the head of the state trooper says, we have nothing here. You have to let them go. You can't arrest anybody. They've done nothing wrong. There's no crime here. But when you look at the legality of law, they had no business to be there to begin with. And that's what's odd, is they find Joe Bonanno's driver's license, but he wasn't there.
Well, yeah, he said it was Bonanno who took the, who probably dropped the dime. He was the most likely source.
I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe somebody had said to me a long time ago, what are the odds that Luciano didn't do it? To go at Genovese.
I don't think he would have hurt everyone, but
and that's exactly what you're going to hear me say on the podcast. Is it would be one thing to go after Genovese and want to hurt him, but he's not going to go after everybody else. He just wouldn't do it. I think somebody definitely dropped a dime, 100%. But we're probably never going to know.
No.
But we should go up there.
Yeah, hey bud, I told you
that would be a good episode.
Yeah.
Take the $20,000 camera up there and just do what.
I wonder who lives in that place now. If it's still in the family.
You know what? Hold on a second. Let me see if it's still even like, I don't even know if it's still like fucking standing.
Have a good night, Jimmy. Yeah, JL, I think it was probably Bonanno that dropped the dime too, if anyone.
It's still standing.
Yeah,
Oh wow, that would be fantastic.
we'll go up whenever you want.
It's near Binghamton. That's a long ride.
It's not too far for me. Binghamton's only like an hour, 45 minutes away.
That's
But
different when
picking
you're
your
here in
ass
New York.
up is going to be a little.
Yeah, that would be a fun show because they have woods nearby and we could run through the woods.
Oh yeah, and get Moss Boss with his little outfits on.
Yeah, we'll get Maz Boss. Hey, you want to come on, go into Apalachin? You act like the gangster running out of the woods.
I wonder who lives in the house. Like if that's still in the family though.
I think it was bought by somebody else.
Probably this. I mean, so much further, down the line. But yeah, that would be a pretty good, interesting thing, man. It's
I don't know how long is the drive from New York City to. It's got to be like 3 hours, right? Yeah, 3.5 hours.
yeah.
It's closer to. Wow.
Did you see what Agnostic just said?
No.
It's
Where is it?
where it says just knock on the door.
Am I going? Oh,
Down further, about
just knock on the door and tell him Scott Bernstein sent you. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That's going to be my calling card from here on out. I'm like, hi, I'm friends with Scott Bernstein. Who? And I'll just show a picture of Shrek.
oh god.
You know, he doesn't like me. It's okay. He's going to get mad and send me, how dare you tell a story about me? But shut up. Stupid.
Oh fuck him.
I wish he'd come on here. You know what I would do to him if he came on here?
Oh god.
He wouldn't last 30 seconds with me. Because I could do it without yelling too. I'd be like, listen, do you think it's right? Would you want me? So like if he says that story's fake about him getting slapped around by some serious people, right? I'll say, well, what's the difference between me telling that story and you telling your fucking nonsense story about a friend of mine?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Here's what the difference is. One's truthful, the other one's not.
There you go. And that's
what the difference is.
One is very true and the other's not. Yeah, we'll get
when all
Miles
this shit happened I'm not good with dates. I know Apalachin was in 57. Was that before Banano or was kicked out of the mob? Was that before he ran off?
That was you're talking about before Magliacco and all of that shit?
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm trying to think. God, I'm trying to think off the top of my fucking head. It's got to be after the fact. It's got to be after the fact. And I say that because otherwise Bonanno would have been at that meeting.
That's what I'm getting at. There's no way a guy as big as Bonanno's ego.
Yeah. It was about 10 years prior to that. It was about what, 65, 60, because 66 he arrives out of nowhere again after he's allegedly been kidnapped.
Yeah. But there's no way a meeting of that magnitude would a guy like Bonanno's ego, who wanted to be boss of bosses himself, would miss that.
I thought it was 1963.
Yeah.
That him and Magliacco tried that bullshit.
No
and then
way
he
he's gonna miss that.
Yeah, it was 63, and then he took off to Canada and absolutely infuriated Vic Catroni to no end.
Yeah, I remember that.
Look,
but that's
are you sure Binghamton is only 3 hours from you? Yes,
I'm looking it up now, man.
I'm positive.
Well, how far is Apalachin from Binghamton?
I don't know. I looked up New York City to Apalachin, and it said 3 hours, 16 minutes to Apalachin, New York. 3 hours and 15. It's 194 miles.
Yeah, so I'm looking at New York to Binghamton. One has 2 hours, 55 minutes. Other has 3 hours, 14 minutes. Apalachin is
it's
a little
actually
past.
It actually looks like it's quicker to go up through Yonkers. Well, I think it all depends on how fast you drive too, because you're going up what, I-81.
3 hours, just 3 hours, man. I-80 to 81.
Yeah. Wow, that would be a fun weekend.
Yeah, hey, let's do it up.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that because I'll get they will take the $20,000 camera, and
yeah,
like,
you
fucking
didn't
show
get
everything.
it for nothing, man. We got to put that to use.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things I need to do. Trust me.
So what's going on? I don't know if you want to mention it again, but the meet and greet. Have you gotten anything a little more in the works?
Yeah, there's like 10 people that want to do it, but the thing is that I got to get with Ma's boss on that.
Right.
Because he's got to, I don't want to say too much, but there's a property that I can have available that is like a sick fucking mansion.
I
Like
remember you mentioned it.
something out of fucking horror films, which is like really cool. And I'm not sure what that would like the overall cost of that would be, but I would love to do something like that. Hey
Yeah.
Bear Pushy, how are you? I would love
Yeah,
to do something
Genevieve's
like
called
that.
for that meeting.
Do what? Yes, he
They're
did.
pushies.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. He did.
But nobody blames him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, if I could get it done, I would love to do that there because it's in Jersey. It's a low key area. It would be cool because it would be more of an intimate thing than a fucking like a zoo. You know, other than that, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do.
It's all right. I mean,
And nobody wants to come here to fucking. Now, I could do something where if people wanted to come to New York on the Mulberry Street, Little Italy, but
that'd
it's
be really cool
expensive.
too.
It's
Yeah.
expensive though. Because everybody's going to drive here. They're going to pay like fucking $1 million fucking dollars to stay in a fucking hotel. It's
Yeah.
expensive. So that's why I would rather do something in fucking even in South Philly. I would do it.
Yeah. Hopefully you get something.
I take them over to Phil's.
Yeah. You could put them up in the Round Hotel.
Oh God, no, not that fucking place. I know what you're talking about. No,
I don't remember the name of it, but
it's a dump. It's fucking disgusting. It's like
Yeah.
2 miles from fucking 9th, from 9th, and oh God, what a dump. I walked in there once with the lawyer. He's like, yeah, we want to rent a hotel room for a couple hours just to get some sleep. And you walk in, there's like people snorting coke and smoking crack in the lobby. It's like, yeah, not so much.
yeah, yeah.
Not
actually good.
so much.
You know what's funny is in South Philly, you think there would be more regular hotels, motels, and there's not.
You know what there is a lot of now, and this is what I would do if I had any money. A Airbnb in South Philly.
Yeah.
I legitimately would do that. Somewhere I would want to do one near Packer Park. It's a little nicer.
Yeah.
But an Airbnb in South Philly would be great because there's nowhere to fucking stay. Like if I could buy like multiple properties in South Philly, I would, and I'd rent them out. But
Yeah.
you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. I thought there'd be more.
So I don't know what day this is coming up. I think we're recording, and I don't know if we're doing it live. I gotta ask Jake, but we're doing I'm doing an interview on July 5th at 8:30 with this guy. He's a new up and coming mob channel, and he sent me sort of a what the fuck you call it, sort of an outline. I'm gonna send it to you, Chris, because I want you to see some of the questions.
All right.
But he's like Neil. He's very ingenious, and he's leaving no stone unturned. And for once, I really don't think this is anything I don't want to answer. Like I think for the most part, I can answer all of it. But I wanted to answer one question because somebody said to me, I continue to keep having this issue coming up with J.R. Rubio, and someone keeps saying I'm a federal informant. So let me make this very clear. You guys all say I'm a wannabe. Then you guys say I'm a gangster. You can't be both. And I'm not a gangster. Okay. But you do understand for me to be a federal informant, I would have had to have been a gangster, right? Like, do people get that?
I guess
Like, they just don't take radio guys and say, oh, he's going to be a mob informant. Number two, I'm going to be very clear about this. And this is probably the most I've ever said about this. My friend was on trial for his fucking life. If that stool pigeon rat fuck decided to perjure himself and stupidly harass me on Twitter, I am going to go to my friend's attorneys and show that to them. Plain and simple. That doesn't make me an informant. Okay. Number three, when the Las Vegas Parole Division was investigating Rubio because of shit that he said on another podcast, they immediately found my Twitter feed. Then I get a call from the Vegas Parole Department asking me questions. And I answered them. I'm not going to lie to them. No, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. Then they say, well, the judge knows about it already. They're not going to do anything, but the judge can't contact you. We have to deal with this sort of with you. And I said, okay, whatever. And I was like one of like 10 people. I wasn't the only one. But let me make this last part especially clear. when I had first of all, when this all happened, I made phone calls to people that were directly involved with this. And
Right.
I said, listen, I got an email from this Las Vegas parole person. I don't know, I don't know what to do. He says, no, no, no. You tell them the truth. You do what they ask. It's not like you're, doing XYZ. And then they said this: we don't care what happens. You are never to go to court and testify against anybody, which I wouldn't have done anyway.
Right.
So what I want people to understand when I say that is I was told by made guys what I could do and what I could not do.
Right.
So the point I'm trying to make, because people say to me all the time, I always make a big deal of this on a podcast, is anytime you're remotely associated with anybody, regardless of what it is, you have to clear everything through them. Everything. Right. If a cop comes and see you get pulled over, you got to say something to somebody and let them know. So it's like I cleared all that with them, and then I was given the parameters because they were trying to get, Joey the fuck out of prison.
Yeah.
So all that was said to me by whoever, doesn't matter, it was two people that were allegedly at the top, said to me, you did the right thing, thanks for the help, but under no circumstances, if they're to subpoena you, you are not going to. I said, I know that. I wouldn't want to, but that's just, there's a protocol is what I'm saying.
Right. No, that makes sense. And the fact that the very people that you're trying to help or certain people giving you permission and telling you what to do should pretty much show you're not a rat.
No.
You're just trying to help your friends.
No. And they had no problem. They had no problem when the feds came to warrant from my house. They had no problem with me helping that guy. So it's just people like to invent shit. It's that British asshole who has like 3 teeth in his head and wears a mask and trashes everybody. I want to talk podcasts. This guy used to make all these videos saying that about me. So I would strike the videos on YouTube. Then he would send me an anti-Semitic email threatening to kill me. If you try to take down this video, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I said, oh, well, with 3 teeth, good luck.
I know who you're. I forget the guy's name. I forget.
I want to talk podcasts. You're a jerk off loser. Believe me. I wish I had that guy's address in London, because you know what I would do tomorrow, right? I'd get on a fucking flight to Europe and knock on his door just to see if he wanted to talk that shit then. But this is a guy that does not include information, just invents shit. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he just fucking flies off at the mouth.
I love how he sits there like tea and crumpets. He sits there all like, and he's got the pigeon fucking Welsh English accent where they half stutter and don't finish sentences. And it's like he bases everything he does on shit that he sees. But I noticed all he does is repeat what other people say.
That's all he could do.
It's very odd to me that I stick pigeons up my ass.
I mean, if a guy, how much of a mob expert or whatever, a guy living in Britain can he be? A guy from fucking England, man. That's like me trying to say I'm an expert on fucking cricket.
Oh, there it is. The Quality Inn 20th and Penrose.
I was reading it. They call it the Penrose.
It's the Penrose place. Yeah, it's Penrose.
I couldn't think of the name. It was the Penrose. Oh my God.
Yeah, Bobby got it right. That's funny. There's a slogan I haven't heard in a while. Keep on trucking there, good Betty. Yeah. His Welsh is sheep shacker. Yeah, I don't understand why he hates me. I really don't. But like, he used to make all these videos of me nonstop, and he's a federal informant, and I'm like, yeah. And then he called me a terrorist. That was the best one.
Oh,
he's a terrorist because he supports the IRA. My father supported the IRA. That's just kind of the thing. What their politics were, it was about, it doesn't matter. But that doesn't make me a fucking terrorist no more than it makes me a sheep fucker. Hey, here's a joke for you. When a farmer fucks a sheep, do you know why he does it on the edge of a cliff?
Why?
So the sheep will push back.
Oh, God.
My father used to love to tell that joke, and he'd start laughing, and people would look at my father like, what the fuck is wrong with your dad? It's like, he's got 30 jokes. What are you going to do?
That's pretty funny, man. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So the guy the English guy had his summer teeth going.
Yeah.
Remember I told you about the summer teeth?
Yeah.
You guys know what summer teeth are? Some are there, some aren't.
Yeah. His face looks like he's got smallpox. I don't get it. I don't even know the fucking guy. He's like
That's
attacking.
what's weird. How
He's apparently attacking Fat Bald Sicilian now like crazy. Which, whatever. But like, it was funny because somebody sent me a clip and FBS was like, yeah, this guy used to fucking stalk Jeff Canarsie like nonstop. Now he's stalking me. It's so odd. Listen, if I got up every fucking day, believe it or not, if I got up every day and gave a fuck what Angel Gotti had to say about anybody or anything, or Lee Mole or any of these people, like, listen, when I get up, much to the dismay of people who hate me, I get up, I go get a coffee from the bodega around the corner. I live in New York City. I fire up a cigarette and I go, all right, so what do I got to get done today? First thing I'm not doing is jumping on YouTube and seeing who called who's, what, when, where, and why. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Listen, it reaches a point where I think it's funny in the beginning. It offers some sort of entertainment to some extent, but then it just reaches the point where I'm just like, wow, I didn't think anybody could go any lower. They're digging up somebody's grandmother and skull fucking them on live fucking YouTube videos. I mean, it's just like, what the fuck?
It's really bad, man. Like, and the thing is, when does it ever end? You know what I mean? Like,
you know when it's going to end? Seriously? It's going to end this way. Flash across your screen. CNN. There was a murder today in XYZ. Put whatever state, city, county you want. And then it's going to be MobTube. This was a cult. This was a thing. And they're going to show all of these different videos. And they're going to show a lot of videos of FBS like screaming, you motherfucking cunt. Oh, fucking, and then they're going to show like Angel Gotti going, my father. And then they're going to show Lee Cole going, fuck you, Gunsmoke, fuck you. And then they're going to show MRE going, hello. And then it's going to be, this person was shot 16 motherfucking times. FBI is investigating. That's how it's going to stop. But the one who's going to get the headline is Angel Gotti.
Dude, that was hilarious.
My father. That's what you're going to get. That's going to be like the WAV file. That's going to be like the clip that goes viral. My father.
You can have one nut that goes off the deep end one time, but it just seems like it's been so many years, or I don't know how many years, but a real long time of, people go too low on there. And then it's just one threat after another. And all it ends up being is empty threats. And then they just keep on with their Jerry Springer shit.
Well, the one thing that I can say about this is I've been doing this almost a decade. I've been through a lot of shit. See, here's the difference between me and a lot of people. People actually went to my mother's house.
That's crazy, man.
There is a difference between somebody making threats and then actually fucking doing it.
Right.
Okay. There is a difference between that and somebody showing a photo of a general area you actually live in, making assertions that that's you, which means they know where I live.
Right.
There's a big difference between that. When your mother is fucking 80 years old or whatever, and somebody sticks a fucking camera in her fucking face.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's really beyond.
There is a big difference. So you have to learn to just ignore the majority of shit people say, but every once in a while, there's going to be that one that kind of, sort of sneaks in under the radar that infuriates you. But like I say all the time, like when people used to say, well, you never show your face. I've been around for a decade. Everybody knows what I look like.
Yeah, and there you are right now.
I wasn't really hiding what I looked like for any other reason than I like my fucking privacy. Because unlike a lot of these people,
like fucking the New York Post or whatever,
I was on page 2 of the New York Post.
Yeah.
It's different. The fucking FBI raided my place. There was a shit with my social club that got raided. We all got fucking arrested out for. I mean, these are common fucking things.
Yeah.
But the difference between me and a lot of other people is I can walk down the street, people recognize me. That's happened multiple times to me. I go to restaurants in Queens, people walk over. I go to South Philly, people walk over to me in the fucking line at Phillips Steaks. Hey, are you Jeff Canarsie? And I always say no, because I never know what kind of nut I'm fucking dealing with. And all they want to do is shake my hand and talk. And I get it. But then there just reaches a point where, at what point is it worth arguing about?
Oh, it's not, man. It's not, I don't know. But, I want to ask you, somebody at work mentioned this when you mentioned you go to the bodega in the morning or whatever.
Right.
How is that New York agnostic? You could talk about this. New York chopped cheese sandwiches. Somebody said they're great.
God, you're bringing up chopped cheese again?
Me?
Yeah.
I never had them.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
You never heard of that?
No.
That's like a night, like, so I guess
You know why?
supposedly,
Because I don't eat in bodegas.
well, supposedly that's where the best. That's the
Listen,
best
every
place.
once in a while I get fucking a bagel or something, but I'm not getting nothing called chopped cheese at any bodega because I don't know where the fuck it's coming from.
Oh God, I
These
honestly never
so-called
heard of it either.
mobcast guys are too lazy to do actual research, so they resort to name calling. They're probably miserable pricks. Well, I think most of them can be.
Well, the thing is, it's
Absolutely.
not even mob tube anymore, Chris. It's fucking drama tube. None of them really talk about the mob.
You have a face for radio.
And a voice. That last little fucking rant with fucking doing the voices of MRE Angel, that was great. No, like, so Chop
Yes,
Cheese,
see, look, he said he's never even heard of it.
Chop Cheese. I remember hearing it a while back that
What
a
is
guy
it?
at work.
Cheese chopped up? I mean, what the fuck?
So here's what it is. A guy at work wanted to go on, him and their buddies want to go to Philly, do like whatever, cheesesteaks, do.
Is that a
John
Philly
Doe-
thing or a New York thing?
It's a New York thing. But so I got talking to the guy and I said, you got to go to Nick's Roast Beef. I said, that's the best of them all. He goes, yeah, I heard that place is great. He said, but the one place I like that's the best is the chopped cheese from New York City. And I guess what it is just something they whip up in bodegas where it's like ground up Hamburg meat, legit real Hamburg meat with some cheese and other shit that they just whip up. Is supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be like like a neighborhood thing that they started in bodegas.
I don't know what fucking neighborhood that's in because it ain't mine.
I don't know.
I
I'm
can get
gonna look it up,
falafels
man.
from my fucking bodega. And if they say to me, listen, we're going to whip up some meat and some cheese. No, you're not. I'll just take whatever I can see that isn't crawling.
It looks just like a fucking cheesesteak. I'm looking at it now.
No, I know.
Ten-
I know what it is, but I've never
Oh,
like
I
seen
thought you
that
did.
sold. I can make it for you. I'll buy you a hoagie and make it for you.
Yeah.
Put some special sauce in that prick for you.
Brooklyn beef and cheese.
See, now that's different. Chopped cheese. Yeah, let me get some chopped cheese. If I say that at the bodega, because the guys that own my bodega are all from Yemen, if I say that to them, they're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course, then again, they also told me some other shit today that's kind of goofy, but bodega coffee's the best. You can't beat the bodega coffee.
Oh, sure.
Dunkin' Donuts tastes like fucking toilet water. And I grew up on Dunkin' Donuts being from New England. And I'm telling you, bodega coffee's better. You know,
Well-
I tried to have Dunkin' Donuts at the fucking airport, and I'm like drinking it, and I'm like, this tastes like fucking runny shit water. This is like disgusting. I want some coffee with some lead in that motherfucker,
Yeah, I
made from rat milk.
I like coffee, but I've had some of the worst coffee in my fucking work. These guys come in, they have like powder and shit that they make coffee, and they gotta turn the fucking sink on, just the hot water, and it's just disgusting, man. Fucking, I said I give you a lot of milk.
Are you a big coffee drinker?
Somewhat, not huge. I drink more Red Bull than I do anything, but I do, drink coffee from time to time.
Listen, when you're here, I got to take you to the bodega.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because that's where it's at. Like my buddy Tom came up here and was like, all right, get me the best coffee. And I'm like, all right. He's like, we're going there. I was like, oh yeah. And he drank like a cup and he's like, holy shit, that's the best goddamn coffee I've ever had in my fucking life. It's really nothing special to it. It's just lead. It's very, very strong coffee. That's all.
The thing is, I just think a lot of places in these big cities that the little corner neighborhood joints.
Oh, look,
they're
Angela's
the ones
right
that have the
nut
best
is
shit.
visiting us. Who is Angela's right nut?
Oh God,
Is that a reference to like
I don't know.
Angel Gotti's friend Angela?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Dunkin' Donuts coffee is disgusting, Bear Pitchy.
Heard Starbucks was overrated too.
No, I forget it. No comment. No comment at all. Okay, Jeff and Chris, why do you think the Irish mob wasn't as organized compared to what you saw with the Italians because of the Irish mob bosses had? Well, because if they were fucking organized, they would be a conglomerate together and working together. When they're killing each other, that technically means they're not organized. When you have Bugs Moran doing what he wants and you have other Irish guys in the city doing what they want, that the best example I can give you of not being organized is They're killing each other. Am I missing something here?
No, they weren't disciplined like the Italians. But I think to answer this question is it's the culture and the tradition.
There's
So
no hierarchy.
right when the guys came over, Lucky Luciano, whoever, the Black Hand, when they came over late 1800s, early 1900s, they already had an understanding of how it worked in Sicily. You know what I mean? Like they had that hierarchy in mind. They knew what they're doing. When the Irish came over, they didn't have a hierarchy.
Go back to the Ellis Island days when the Italians came to this country. And by the way, for those that know, I'm half Irish, half Italian. Okay, when the Italians came here, they were willing to work for whatever because they just wanted to make money. Whereas the Irish had established there's a percentage that they're going to work for. And when the Italians came to this fucking country and said, we'll work for anything, the Irish went nuts because they looked at them like the Mexicans of that time. And that's where the term guinea came from. They'll work for a fucking guinea. They'll work for anything. They just wanted to work. They just wanted jobs. So guess what? If you're going to get paid a nickel an hour, they would take it. But the Irish said, how dare you? We make 10 cents an hour. And then the Irish bullied the shit out of the Italians. They used to crack their heads open and beat them senseless. And the Irish, when they came to this country, had the same problem. They had been bullied.
So was it because the Italians would work for low wages at first that the Irish thought that they were going to take their jobs?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay.
Right. So if they couldn't get them to reform, they'd crack their fucking heads.
How much do you know of Bill the Butcher? You know, like, was he portrayed accurately at all?
That was very accurate.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
So I guess you like that movie.
No, not a fan. Ask me why. You won't believe the reason why.
Oh, listen, when it comes to movies, there's always
two things. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And it was 3.5 goddamn hours long. You could have wrapped that some bitch up in 2 hours. But in terms of the 5 points, it was very close. Very close. Wow. Great movie. It is a good movie. I'm just not a fan of Leo DiCaprio. That's it. I find it hard to believe him of all people. Maybe it's because he's a good-looking guy, I guess.
Being a gangster type.
That's doesn't, you know, but I thought that Daniel Day-Lewis was fucking fantastic.
He's
that
really
guy's a
good actor, man. He's a great actor.
He's a method actor. And those guys are on a whole nother fucking planetary system. Don't refer to me as anything but Abraham Lincoln. That motherfucker, when he played Lincoln, would not take off the fucking costume. He would sleep in Lincoln period bed sheets and shit. He wouldn't, like, you could not address him. He ate food that was like decrepit and half spoiled. I'm sorry, but botulism is not my idea of a good time. I don't want to be shitting and puking trying to get 4-7. Gotta go. You know what I mean?
What was that movie he did? And There Will Be Blood. That was pretty good too.
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis has done a lot. Even The Last of the Mohicans I did like.
Yeah.
You know a movie I like that people would never suspect? Dances with Wolves.
That was one of the best movies ever. They say I don't even know if I watched the full thing. I watched bits and pieces.
You know why it was the best? Because it was the first movie I ever dined and dashed. Free.
Adios. Yeah.
Let's see. Jeff Show, the character that Sean Connery played in The Untouchables was actually loose based on how the Irish were. Okay. I'm assuming that Anthony is basically saying that the character that Sean Connery played in The Untouchables was actually loosely based on how the Irish really thought of the Italians during that period. No, I would agree. 100%. And that's where that famous quote comes from about the morgue. You know?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's a good one.
But that's another movie.
Like the State of Grace.
Nope. Can't do it.
I don't think there's a tougher movie critic in the world, man.
Can't do it. Just like I can't do fucking Casino. Can't do it. You know why? Sharon Stone ruins that whole goddamn movie.
You hate her, man.
Shut up and just blow Joe Pesci and get off the screen. You know?
You watched it once. I remember the one time on a show or a podcast, you said, what am I going to do after this? I'm going to watch States of Grace. I thought you said that.
Yeah, no. Won't watch it. Nope.
Did you ever see it? You
Yeah.
never saw it?
Yeah.
Oh.
No thanks. No. Just like that other fucking Irish fucking mob thing.
The Departed. I know you hate The
Oh
Departed.
no, I can't stand that fucking film. The Departed? Are you crazy? You know how stupid that? Listen, first of all, you already
I don't
know
think that was meant to be accurate.
you know what's already throwing me off about that film. Once again,
Damon.
Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Two, Matt Damon, I can't take seriously. And just Jack Nicholson sort of played a version of Whitey Bulger that was interesting. And I thought honestly, the funniest thing I've ever seen is when he blows that broad's fucking head off and he starts laughing and goes, "Oh, I thought she'd fall differently." She just starts laughing or whatever. That was pretty good. But a lot of mob stuff, I just don't like.
I think because you know the reality too much of it, that anything you see that's slightly
see, Bear Pushy has got my heart right here. Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, that's classic.
Classic. Cannonball Run 2 all day long.
How about,
I love Sharon. It was a bad role. No, I would agree. I mean, she's a good actress, just a bad role for her. Like she was the whiny, doped up, couldn't get enough dick from everybody. I just shut up, kill Sharon Stone, get her out of the fucking way.
But what if that was an accurate portrayal of what his wife was like?
What the fuck's that got to do with the story?
I don't know.
In all reality. Well, okay, yeah, it plays into the idea that he was fucking with a made guy's wife. I get that, or a non-made guy's wife. Let's see, what other gangster films do I fucking hate that people would be?
How about this one? The one that goes and shepherds we shall be, for thee, my lord, for thee. Power hath descended from thy hand, thy feet shall swiftly carry out.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Yes, you do, because I told it to you in a voice text. Okay, who could tell me? They say this prayer in the movie. It's a kick-ass prayer that people like. Two Irish guys, before they're about to kill someone, they do a prayer. They say, "In shepherds we shall be, and thee, my lord, for thee. Power hath descended from thy hand.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Thy feet shall swiftly carry out thy command, and we shall flow a river forth unto thee. Numine Padre, et Filii, Spiritus Sancti."
I have fucking no idea. I don't like any Irish films.
Someone's got to know that, man.
I don't like any Irish gangster films. They haven't been done the right way. I think Guy Ritchie
Saints.
Oh, that's another one I fucking can't stand. It's a stupid storyline to me. It's unrealistic in every fucking way.
But not all movies are supposed to be.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're supposed to be realistic when it comes to history. No, I get it. They've never really done an Irish crime. I tell you what came close. Road to Perdition.
Yeah, that was your favorite one.
That was insanely close to the mark, and that was loosely based on somebody's life that I've talked about on the show many times. It was loosely based on Charlie the Bug Workman.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Is that the one with Tom Hanks?
Yeah. I just didn't like the ending, but that's realistic. That's what happens. Like Goodfellas. I will sit and watch Goodfellas all until the ending, and I turn it off. I won't even get to the part where fucking Henry Hill rats. I turn the TV off. I can't deal with it. It makes me angry. It's a great film, though. Godfather 3, can't stand it. Godfather 1 and 2, all day long. Actually, you know what I liked better than The Godfather 3 was that horrible fucking TV series about the Claracuzios.
Oh, The Last Don.
Yeah, that I actually liked. Pippi, look, he's got the fucking stock. The red
I thought one time you said you didn't like that movie.
No, that movie I actually like. Gary Oldman and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Love that film.
Agnostic, what fucking religious questions do you think I have to ask you?
Has there ever been an accurate movie made about the Westies? I'm going to say no.
Not accurate, but I guess States of Grace was supposed to be loosely
right.
based.
So if you're going to tell the story of the Westies, right? Like you're more beneficial to tell it from sort of an aspect when Mickey Spillane was the boss, right? And then everything leading up to that. If you cover it after the fact, they just placate the Italian organized crime. Jimmy Coonan just placated the Italian mobsters. That was it. It's like, to me, the story of Philadelphia is like the Young Turks taking over. That
Yep.
to me is like what the story. There's no story in Nicky Scarfo other than like little like subtexts. If I was gonna make a fucking legitimate series, I would do a biography on Luciano, because to me that's like definitive. Like, and I know
Yeah.
people go Boardwalk Empire, which I couldn't sit through more than one episode of that. And I think a lot of that is because I was such a fan of The Sopranos.
Did it
that
have
I-
something to do with nails in his hand? I don't know what the fuck.
What the fuck? Why did Jesus weep, agnostic? And he said because he had nails in his hands.
He
Oh my
said, did it
God.
have something to do with nails in his hand?
Agnostic. Chris,
He comes up with.
any
He
religious
asked me if I had any
questions?
religious questions he could ask.
I have a religious question. Why Saint Peter, feet up, head down? Why did the Romans do that to Saint Peter? Like, really? Like, they're gonna crucify him upside down? Like, normally just wasn't good enough? Like, was that extra, like, more demonic? Was that like extra evil?
I guess.
Curious.
I don't know.
Could you imagine Jimmy Burke taking over the Westies? Absolutely, 100%. And I think that would have been a smart move. But I was going to make a film on Jimmy Burke, but that, you know,
How well did the Westies do financially before the whole Javits Center thing?
Before that, under Mickey Spillane's control, fantastic. But Mickey
Yeah.
Spillane was a greedy fuck too, though. And now the Westies here in the city is just drugs. They're still here.
So was it mostly loan sharking, gambling?
Yeah,
shit?
yeah, just typical mob shakedowns, union stuff. But Mickey Spillane had a lot of like union corruption, and he also had a lot of politicians in his pocket.
Wow.
You know, but the Westies are still here. They're still in Hell's Kitchen, but they appear more like Danny Kinahan and company than they do like gangsters.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think greed is the operative term. Let's see if agnostic didn't say he was not worthy of being upright like Jesus. Well, I think they ought to bring crucifixions back.
Oh boy.
Well, let me tell you why. If you started crucifying legitimately pedophiles, people would stop, or at least not want to get caught. If you crucified people that have Ponzi schemes and these fucking bankers that steal money, if you begin to like boil them in oil in town square,
Oh yeah, they wouldn't do that anymore.
you know, they need to make the death penalty fun again. I'm serious. They need to make it fun. Like, get a big fan and push people through it.
Oh yeah, that's
You know, like them real old nasty fans.
Let's
from,
go
like,
back to the mid ages and guillotine motherfuckers.
Nah, that's too easy. They know it's coming. I don't want them to know it's coming. Like, I want to shoot a spear through their asshole out their mouth. Like, I want to get creative. You know, like I want to do some Vlad Tepes type of shit to pedophiles. I mean,
Ugh.
to other fucking crimes. You know, can you imagine that back in the day in Town Square they did these things to people and it was like entertainment?
It's crazy.
Like, hey, look, they're gonna bring out the 5 tigers in a minute. Watch what happens to
Roman
this
Coliseum.
crippled blind guy. He has no chance. 10-5, he gets to run 3 steps before he's eaten alive.
We'll
It's crazy.
hire Agnostic as our fucking killer guy, man.
What?
Agnostic says sign me up. Sounds like a fun job. So he'll be the executioner.
I think agnostic would want to be the guy that would go, so you're not going to wear that shirt after this, are you? Like, want to give it up to me? You know,
he's a funny guy, man. He's good.
I love his picture. Like, it's interesting. I would love to pay to see somebody to walk down the street in New York looking like that. Oh,
Can
fuck.
you imagine?
Oh.
Scare a lot of people.
Get like a Major League Baseball pitchers to stone assholes. Oh, that's intriguing. How about public flogging? How about shoving a live snake up someone's ass? I stole that from Mel Brooks. That's one of the best lines ever in history of the world. He's like, okay, you know, they're trying to figure out how they're going to execute somebody, and he's like, death by torture. He's like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Crucifixion. Yes. Shove living snake up his ass. And the guy goes, no, but that's very creative. You send them to the lions. He's right. No, yes, yeah, he's right. You send them to the lions.
So what other movies, non-mob movies, was like some of your favorites?
Ooh, Cape Fear is one of my all-time favorites.
Cape Fear.
The original with Gregory Pecker. Gregory Peck. No, I like the remake. When De Niro goes ape shit, it's like when he's drowning. That's fantastic. No, that's one of my all-time favorites. Cape Fear. I always have my standards like Fletch. Fletch Lives. I love those. I like comedies. But really, like, I mean, I have like three I go to when I'm like, Jaws. I love Jaws. A lot of people may not like Jaws.
You like the old stuff. That's what's funny is like the newer movies with technology, how things could be made so much better.
Oh my God.
He doesn't eat the gerbil.
Wow.
Oh God.
That is agnostic. You win an award for the most repulsive yet ugly humorous statement of the evening.
He's funny, man. I'm telling you, he comes up.
Jimmy Calandra would like the snake in his ass, but didn't eat the gerbil. Oh.
He's the best.
Don't you find it ironic how the government goes all out to get the mafia, yet they openly cover up certain top politician asking for a friend? No, I agree.
Really bad today, man. Really bad with that shit today.
Put rats in a box and make them eat the mob rat alive. Ooh, that's a good one. Fletch fucking rocks.
You know, I think one of my favorite movies of all time was The Wolf of Wall Street. That movie was fucking.
That was actually good. I enjoyed that.
That was fucking hilarious.
I'm surprised I just said that.
I enjoyed a little bit. Yeah.
Bend over.
Well, he's not playing a
nice to meet
boss.
you, Victor Hugo. What are you in for, Ben? Molesting a dead horse. There's nothing, no crime against that. That's a great line. That's so fucking funny. What's your name? Bend over. Hi, Ben. Victor Hugo.
What's the old mob movie where you were saying where the mother says you don't shoot right, you shoot your ass off or something like that? Remember the real funny thing with the lion and shit?
Are you talking about Johnny Dangerously?
Nah.
Oh, you're talking about the gang that couldn't shoot straight.
Yeah.
You watch your ass. Yes. Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm going to do deuces, nickels, and trays in the fucking can. And she's like, you watch your ass. And he's going out with a comb, and she takes the comb and puts a butcher knife in his hand and a gun in his pocket. That movie's hilarious. The fact they beat the shit out of Tattoo halfway through that film is even better. The midget from De Plane. Hervé Villachet was his name. That's right. Oh, Jesus Christ. Jimmy would be more like than a snake up his arse. He would eat his crayons, sandwiches, and well. Oh, wow. John Cocktoast. Yeah, there you go. What's your name? John Cocktoast. John Cock. Yeah, Fletch Lives is a great movie. No, but I think like a lot of the old films like Jaws, Lawrence of Arabia. I know that sounds crazy. The Wizard of Oz.
I don't think I ever saw that.
The Court Jester. Like I like musicals too, but I really like. I don't know. Like I'm really big on like George Raft and some of the really like the Maltese Falcon.
You're
like,
big on everything old school, man.
The movies were better. Movies were better then.
Well, I'll tell you what. Now movies absolutely suck. I'm not saying 2000s, 2010s, but I don't know. The past few years, 5 years, movies have just been fucking horrible. I'll go on Prime and watch all these trailers, and so many of these movies will like look like an interesting trailer, and they just fucking suck. Now, there's a lot of good series out there, you know, like Yellowstone and what's the
like? Let me give you a good reference point, okay? And people are not going to like what I'm about to say. All right, Titanic. What year did that come out? 1992, 93. Okay, I don't need to sit there for 3 hours because I already know what's going to fucking happen. The boat's going to fucking sink. And that's it. I don't give a fuck about a love story on a sinking ship. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't like that love story shit. I watched
that classic On the Waterfront. That's a classic.
That like the fuck was it? The original movie. What now?
Strap the condemned man to a chair and make them watch Rubberhead Calandra and Stuck on Stupid Panisi on a constant loop.
That would be torture.
I'm trying to think. You know, if somebody said to me, what is the all-time greatest film ever made. You know, just Ben-Hur. To me, it's Ben-Hur. Doesn't get any better than that. You know, I'm
I'd
weird.
probably go The Godfather. I really like The Godfather.
It's
And I know you say it's operatic and stuff, but here's the thing. And I didn't watch The Godfather till late '90s or something. But the thing with The Godfather, for how far back it was made, and even though it was a little operatic, if you watch it today for the very first time, you would still say, "Wow, that was a great film." Even though, like, certain old school films seem kind of corny, like even for this day, it would be, I don't know, it was good.
I mean, there's a lot of films like it's crazy. You know, like the horror stuff. Like, listen, I watch the old stuff. You know, I do. If I showed you guys a photo of like the left side of my fucking office here, it's all horror shit. But like horror shit now is all like poltergeist and ghosts jumping out of the closet with steel dildos. Like I can't deal with it. It's to me, it's stupid. Now, when I go and I watch the original 1940 Wolfman, it's not scary, but it's good.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can watch it and get some enjoyment out of it, but like, how many fucking times is Michael Myers going to come back from the fucking dead? And you know me, I'm a huge Halloween fan. This
Right.
last thing, I have no idea what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah, I remember you said.
And I know that with Friday the 13th being given back to Cunningham now, they're gonna. I know the Peacock's coming out with a series that's going to be based on sort of a what the fuck do they call that when they go back to the root, like a how it all began kind of thing. But really, like
something like that.
There's very few movies I think from like the 90s up that I was like, wow. You know, maybe Braveheart. That was a great
Braveheart
film.
was really good. I definitely like Braveheart.
Because listen, I teared up at the end of that first time I saw it. You know, my friend looks at me and goes, "Oh, look at you, you little Irishman. You got a tear in your eye. Go fuck yourself." But no, I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another one. See, here, okay. So a lot of people like the original Scarface. I don't. I like it, but it's not like it's not like the thing I go to like, oh, this is such a great gangster film. And I think it's because they went so over the top, like towards the end. It's a great film. They made a sequel to it, which is hilarious to me. Gladiator was a great film.
Gladiator was really good.
Shawshank Redemption. E.T. I can't. You know what? I'm going to tell you something about the truth about E.T. I watched E.T. once in the theater, and I was so heartbroken. I've never watched it again.
My dad cried at that film. He said,
"Yeah, when Elliot's screaming, no, 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 wake him up, wake him up." I went fucking berserk in the theater and started crying, and I have never watched it since. I refuse to. I can't. Just like I can't watch fucking Gremlins. When that little fucking mogwai gerbil, whatever the fuck that thing is, gets water thrown on it and he morphs and starts screaming. I can't deal with it. You know?
Now,
but my father said to me, I'll never forget this. My father comes home and says, "Today, son, you become a man." I said, "All right." He goes, "I got this great film." I was like, "All right, what is it?" He goes, "Well, sit down. I'll put the tape in the VCR." It was Old Yeller.
Oh, God.
Right? And after that, it was The Yearling. Have you watched either one of those films?
I know Old Yeller was bad at the end. It died.
The Yearling, the kid is falls in love with a baby deer, and the father makes him go out and kill the fucking deer with a gun. Yeah,
that's bad, man.
You know what? Just if you really want to get me into my happy spot, put in the Apple Dumpling Gang and just leave me be.
The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Yeah, you've never seen that?
I heard of it. I don't know.
Tim Conway, Don Knotts, and then there's the Apple Dumpling Gang.
Oh, I know Don Knotts. He was funny as shit. You know, I don't know why, but when I was younger and I saw this, I said it was my favorite movie ever. Not anymore, but I something about I really liked DC Cab. I don't know why.
Oh, that was fantastic. Who didn't like that one? That was, and then there was this other. God, it was a film that came out.
I can't believe we agreed that we both liked.
Did you ever see the movie called Big Shots with the two kids that stole the Mercedes?
I heard of it.
Oh,
I think I did. I don't remember offhand, but I'm pretty sure I did.
I swear to God, I think Lee Cole was in the Garbage Pail Kids, the movie. I swear to God. And he was that fucking thing in Dune, too.
I'll tell you. Oh, God. hilarious movie. I never know when you're going to say you like a movie or not because you're just so tough with it. Harlem Nights was fucking hilarious.
That's one of the best ever.
Harlem Nights.
Yeah.
When they were in that car chasing whoever, firing away, and then at the end, they all fire away, and at the end, the guy with the little pipsqueak gun takes his last shot, and then he shoots the guy in front of him. You killed fucking Roddy.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene?
Oh, you're going to shoot me in the pinky toe. Okay, shoot me in the pinky toe. He wasn't talking about you, Mira. Shut up, bitch. Oh, yeah. No, that's a great
Do you
film.
remember the part where they're in the car and he shot the guy in front, and he missed, and he shot the guy in front of him sitting in the front seat?
Yeah.
Like, you just shot fucking Roddy or whatever his name was.
Yeah. My other favorite scene from that film is when fucking Red Fox is calling the dice and he's calling all the wrong numbers because he's not wearing his glasses. He goes, 2, 2. He goes, 2, that's a 7, you dumb motherfucker. Look at what you're doing. Oh man, that's a great film.
Yeah, that reminds me of me. I'm supposed to be at work watching over a fucking bingo game that's going on, and all of a sudden, that we only had about a couple $1,000 worth of fucking prizes to give out, candy and shit. All of a sudden, before I know it, there's fucking 25 guys coming up with one bingo on the same fucking card. 5 minutes later, all the shit's gone.
So Chris the cop says something very interesting. He says, when I was a little kid, I had nightmares about them flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. My father was deathly afraid of those monkeys his whole entire life. So when I was in Atlantic City, I'm talking 25 years ago, they had a Wizard of Oz monkey. And I bought that motherfucker. It was a huge stuffed animal thing. And I put it in his closet. And so I'm sitting there. And I was watching Wizard of Oz. He came in and goes, what are you watching? So Wizard of Oz goes, Jesus Christ, those fucking monkeys. He walks out of the room, and I knew he was going in to get changed. And all I hear is, Jesus fucking Christ. And I hear like fucking shit being knocked off shelves. Because when he hit the light, he saw the 6-foot fucking the flying monkey from the Wizard of Oz in his closet. It's funny.
Jesus.
He was
funny.
scared
Your
of
father's
snakes.
stories are the best.
Well, he was scared of snakes. So I used to put snakes in like the shitter, the toilet, the shower,
God.
But he got me back because I was terrified of spiders. And when he was out in California, they sell tarantulas that are like dead, but they've been like put in like little glass cases. Well, not to be undone, my father took this fucking thing out of the fucking glass case.
Ugh.
And he set it on my chest and he tickled my nose, and I woke up and all I see is this giant fucking tarantula.
Holy fuck.
I went fucking crazy. But, his fear of snakes came from Vietnam.
Oh, God.
Because he was driving. They were, I don't know if it was Quezon or what the fuck they were doing, but they were coming down this hill. And they always had to be in the lookout for little kids throwing, tomato cans under the Jeep because they would hide grenades in there and throw them under the Jeep. And my father said, they're coming down this huge valley. And he goes, from underneath the fucking dash, a cobra comes flying out. And my father just like went fucking crazy. And the guy driving is like poking it with his finger. My father's like, Jesus Christ, it's a fucking cobra. And my father pulls out his 45, starts blasting holes in the goddamn Jeep and misses. And he ends up blowing up the fucking engine because he's firing just 45 rounds. Yeah.
Just like the guy who shot the crab.
Huh?
Just like the guy who shot the crab.
Yep. Yeah. Similar situation. Yeah. He used to tell me stories about the mama-sans who would come and clean their hutch and how they would keep these like these baby monkeys, and that the monkeys would like attack the women when they walked in the house, like ripping their hair out, throwing shit. I'm just like, and he's telling me this like it's the funniest fucking thing ever.
That is.
It's odd. I wish I could have been there the day that cobra like popped its head out under the dash, and my dad
God,
pulls out its sidearm and starts firing wildly into the car.
Imagine you telling that story.
I've never told that story. I don't think I've ever.
Well,
told
no, I mean, like if you were there to tell that story, saw it live, like you said.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. He's like, that's why I lost all my hair. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not why, Pop.
So your dad has something in common with some friends of yours, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Firing into a car, a van.
Oh yeah.
Some holes that should.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hell of a thing to fucking have a machine gun and spray the inside of the goddamn van. All right, there he is. Get him. You gotta open the door, Smile. You open the fucking door. Oh, okay, boss.
I could imagine your father fucking with Boston Andy a lot too. How you said he
Oh
used
my
to
God, nonstop. Andy had a fucking a really bad ADHD, and so he would be hyper focused on something. And my father, would have, I think that carpet was like a gray, and my father would go in and grab red construction paper, and he would tear it up into like 5,000 little pieces, and he'd walk out with the box and go, "Hey, Andy, I got a fucking surprise for you." He goes, "What's that, Mr. L?" And he'd throw the fucking trash everywhere. And Andy can't sit there. He wants to pick it up and put it away. He goes, "Sit there, Andy, sit there." And he used to torture Andy like that. And then one night Andy got stung by a bee and like was crying because he got stung. He wanted to go home because he got stung by a bee. So my dad hears him, and he's not crying, but he's like doing the whole pouty. "Oh, I'm hurt. I gotta go home. A bee bit me." And my father comes out and he goes, "What's the problem?" And Andy goes, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so, this bee stung me right here in my pinky." And you can look at the pinky, right? And there's like a little dot. Do you know what my father does? What do you think my father does in a situation like that?
Tells him to stick it up his ass or puts it in his nose. I don't know.
My father grabs it with a pair of pliers and squeezes as hard as he can.
Jesus.
Andy starts screaming to the point where he's going to pop the fucking nail off his finger, and he lets go. And Andy's like, "What the hell would you?" And that's like, could be borderline abusive, right? And my father goes, "I was in fucking Nam. They pulled all my fingernails off. Stop being a cunt." Well, all right. Can't argue with that.
Maybe he was trying to get him focused on the other pain instead.
Yeah, but he used the same finger he got stuck in.
I don't know, man.
You know.
Pulling out the squeezing
I
out
had
the
bamboo
finger.
shoots underneath my fingernails. I was in Nam. I could snap your neck in 3 seconds. But when my father got really upset, though, he would. Can you hear that? Gunshots.
What?
They're
No,
gunshots.
I got the air conditioning.
Nope, they're fireworks. Never mind. When my father got really pissed, he would kick popcorn across the living room. That was his thing. When he got really fed up with Andy singing "Strangers of the Night" at 2:00 in the morning, when he's trying to fucking go to bed and I'm like half awake and Andy's like, "Dooby dooby doo." My father would turn on all the lights, come out with his Vietnam helmet on and say, "Shut the fuck up." And then he would kick the popcorn bowl, which was half full, all the way across the room, and it would spray and shower it's just the way he was. He would lose his shit,
Well,
bro.
the funniest part was this story is coming out with his fucking helmet on, man.
Oh,
Especially the fucking raccoon dog story where he comes out.
If the Vietnam helmet went on, you just get out of the way. Just let him do whatever. We once had a cat that shit on the floor. All right. And the reason why the cat shit on the floor was because we had 3 cats and the litter box was full and he was a little baby and he didn't get it. And my father thought, you ready for this? My father thought that the correct way of addressing that was to shove his face in it.
Oh, God.
Which, he goes, how do you like the cat's name was Mo. He goes, "Oh, Mo, how do you like that? How do you like that shit on How do you like that little shit on your face? Does that smell good? Don't crap on my fucking carpet." But this is what's so funny about it. So my father feels guilty that he did this. And keep in mind, this is like a 6-week-old kitten. The kitten doesn't know any better. He brings the kitten to apologize into his room. He falls asleep, and the cat shit on his face. In his sleep. Because all I hear coming out of the back is, "Jesus Christ," I hear, "Rare," and I see this cat come flying down the hall 10 feet in the goddamn air. "I'll kill that fucking cat." And he's like going crazy. "I'm going to kill that cat." And he's grabbing a hammer. He's going to,
Oh, God.
He's going to hammer this fucking cat. And he doesn't. He's not going to, he starts banging it off the fucking table. He's like, goddamn cat. And just went crazy. He just went fucking absolutely berserk.
Oh, your father was funny, man.
I wish he was still alive. He would listen. You guys think FBS is good at this shit? My father would have never done YouTube, but I would have loved to have him on my show, and I would love for somebody to come in and like say crap, because he would cut them to ribbons worse than I ever could. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, how's your mother?" And he would start that way, but then he'd like go medieval. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, want to give me your address, pal?
And if it was a chick and asking for crush of nuts, you'd say, "I'll shoot your titties off."
Yep, that was his. Yeah, listen, you know, I was in town for we were on the road. We had a road hockey game somewhere, and I had to go to the stadium and get on the bus. But I agreed to meet dinner with him. And when she was with his wife, I really didn't want to do that, but whatever. But of course, we go through all through dinner, and he's making sly remarks about this and that. And I think we were at a Cracker Barrel. I think that's where we were. I'd never been to one. And the lady, they have like the Sunday bar or whatever. And she comes over and goes, "What would you like?" He's like, "Oh, I'll have chocolate ice cream, this, that, and the third, this, that, and the third." And I guess she didn't ask him if he wanted nuts on his ice cream. And of course, I just want to get the fuck out of there,
Right.
He's like, yeah, I'll take some nuts. And she walks away. And she comes back like 2 seconds later and she's like, "Would you like nuts crushed?" And my father stands up, literally at the table, puts his hands like he's got sidearms from a fucking Western, and circles the imaginary six shooter and goes, "Want your tits blown off?" And I'm just like, oh my God, like you can't make this shit up. You, and I start, of course, I'm laughing my ass off at that point, but she's like, okay. Like walks away. It's like, he goes, "Keep them on their toes." That's my philosophy. Keep them on their toes. Meanwhile, you say that today, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy as shit. You can't say today. Everything's bad.
All right, so I'm going to make one comment about this, then we're going to get out of here. What do you guys think about the big boxing match? What big boxing match? Floyd Mayweather kicked the shit out of John Gotti III. That's the bottom line. I don't think anybody's going to say it any differently. I think the reality is that Floyd Mayweather is a boxer. John Gotti III is not.
Do you know they're I think they are having a rematch.
Of course they are. There's money for Floyd to make. Now, does that mean that everything that happened was staged? No, I don't think it was at all. It's a punk move. What happened? I agree with that as a boxing fan. If his name was Smith, would he have been in the ring? Nope.
Nope.
Not at all.
They're delusional. Like, you have a different opinion, and then all of a sudden you're a woman beater or something to this fucking side.
Well, here's my point, okay? And let's just be realistic. Floyd is 50-0 as a professional boxer. Won 16 different titles, correct?
Correct.
Give or take? Okay. John Gotti III had a abysmal MMA record. 5-1, 5-2, something like that. First of all, you're fighting in CES MMA, which is not Major League MMA.
Right.
Okay, that's like the minor leagues of MMA.
Right.
Let's be appropriate here.
Right.
Now, could he beat me up? Sure, absolutely. Am I an MMA guy? No.
Right.
But let's just be honest. You are not in the NHL of MMA. You're like in the ECHL, which is 2 rungs below major leagues. You have a 5-2 record. Okay. Are you successful? Yes. By that record, you are successful. You have 2 pro boxing matches, which you won. You're 2-0 as a pro boxer at age 30. By age 30, most pro boxers are almost done.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you're going to step in the ring in an exhibition with a guy that's 50-0. You're not going to beat him. And all of this shenanigans I keep hearing about, oh, he was just, Floyd was nervous. No, he wasn't. Floyd was laughing at him the whole time.
Right. Yeah. And I love how they say he got robbed of his chance because the last 2 rounds. Well, what about the first 6 rounds where he didn't throw any fucking punches?
Well, look at the CompuBox stat numbers.
It's
Gotti threw 20-some punches, landed like fucking 7 or 8 or 9 of like 50 punches. Like it's look, here's the thing. It's a great opportunity, right? And I think everybody can agree it was an incredible opportunity, but that's an opportunity that he didn't deserve. And certainly one he got because of his last name. He made a fool of himself.
That's the thing. It's one thing to get it because of your last name, but I just hate how their side can never. It's one thing to defend your family and friends. People do that. But when they're so delusional to the point where they're twisting everything around. I mean, I heard him calling the Mayweather side classless. I mean, come on, man. I mean, the classless move was attacking Mayweather after the ref stopped the fight. Then they sit there crying about how first it's the ref shouldn't stop the fight for trash talk, and that's part of the game. But then down the road, they're sitting there calling Floyd classless for mocking Gotti and trash talking. But that works both ways. So which is it part
that's
of the game?
boxing. That's boxing.
Yeah, it's
and
ridiculous.
The last time I checked, this all started because they were trash talking each other on Instagram. Yeah. That's how all this originally got started, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but the reality is this. Floyd was out of shape, threw up a 20% effort, and still outboxed the shit out of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I think they should fight again? No. If I'm Floyd, I don't ever step in the same fucking ring with that guy.
And here's the thing.
There's nothing left to prove.
Bear Pushy makes a good point why Floyd didn't go to town and just end it quicker. He knows he could kick the crap out of him. He knows for whatever reason people are paying money to see this. So he wants to give the people his money's worth a little bit. You know, he probably could have beat Conor McGregor quicker, but he wants at least, he even said after Conor McGregor, he says, you didn't really do a lot the first couple rounds and then you turned it on, Floyd. Was that by plan? He said, yeah, that was by plan. You know, the fans paid to see this, blah, blah, blah. But just how they twist everything around that side.
Well, like everybody else. Here's my point. Why do you wait 6 rounds to throw to why do you wait till after it's over to like fight like that? And I'll be honest with you, even if he had fought like that from round 1, Floyd would have just moved out of the way every single time.
Yeah, he would have killed him.
The thing is, I'm going to say it like this, whether people like what I'm about to say or not, he's not a boxer. People that fight professionally boxing are in the gym from 14 and 15 and younger years old, training. Yeah. Arturo Gatti, some of the greats, Marvin Hagler, all of these guys. This guy walked out of MMA and just decides he's going to be a pro boxer at 30 years old and then fights chumps on top of it as a startup. So I don't take him seriously as a boxer. That's just me. He's not a boxer. I mean, do I take him serious as an MMA fighter? Not really. He's in CES MMA.
Yeah.
Go to Bellator. Bellator is bigger than that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I will say this, because they're going to twist what I just said. But he is a tough kid. He is a good kid for the most part. Did he embarrass himself on national television? 100%. 100%. But it will pay off because he'll get more money now. You know, but if I'm Floyd, I wouldn't waste my fucking time.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't.
And he has enough money, Floyd, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. It is what it is. It's just ridiculous, the whole thing. But so I guess we're cool for tonight, man, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to get out of. Somebody came in here and said that you were the MTR groupie.
Yeah, I saw it.
Somebody named Midwest Mobsters.
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, look, I've listened to you for fucking whatever, 5-6 years.
We're friends. That's different. We're friends.
You know, we're friends. It is what it is. You know, you're one of the few guys that does actual research and does the mob. We're friends. It is what it is.
Will you watch if there is a Gotti if there is a Gotti Floyd Mayweather fight too? Would you watch? If it was free? No, but if it was free, would you watch it?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm home, if I'm not at work,
and that's the magic of it. Even though the people that say they hate John Gotti III and Angel will still watch.
Oh, and that's what people understand.
And of course, would I? Absolutely. Would I cheer Floyd?
We don't like Sammy Gravano or Mike Francis, but we listen to some of their shit.
I don't.
You know, when they had their sit down. So, you know, whatever. Fuck them. But.
Ooh. I'll have to get to this next week. All right, we're going to get out of here.
So, all right, man. Be good.
Right, I'm going to throw you out. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, so Chris has gone. I wanted to thank everybody for coming in. We got on a lot of different sort of topics tonight. I understand Angel's being protective, but give me a fucking break. Her rants were way overboard. Well, she's protecting her nephew. She has a right, but she's also not a boxing scholar. She is a family member. And I think when you're related to somebody, that sort of skews the vision. Did Floyd beat him up? Not really, but was Floyd a better fighter? Always. He always will be. You can't step into a ring with a guy that's 50-0, only have fought 2 boxing matches your whole entire life, and you fought scrubs at that, and say you're accomplished. And that's just my opinion on it. I would say the same thing if fucking John Gotti III got in the ring with Arturo Gatti, Sweet Pea Whitaker, Hagler, Hearns. I would say he's got no business being in a boxing ring. He's not a good boxer. It's just the reality of it. And if people don't like that opinion, then that's okay. You know, I wish the kid well. I hope he makes a career of it, but I think when you're given a golden opportunity, you do the best that you can to make it worth your while. And he didn't. And it is what it is. But who cares? Because it's just an exhibition. It means nothing. It means nothing. All right, guys. Thank you for stepping in this week. I appreciate it. We'll be back next week with an all new show.